Chapter 14. I'm supposed to be a different person now that I've won a slam. Everyone says so. No more image is everything. Now sports writers assert, for Andre Agassi, winning is everything. After 2 years of calling me a fraud, a choke artist, a rebel without a cause, they lionize me. They declare that I'm a winner, a player of substance, the real deal. They say my victory at Wimbledon forces them to reassess me, to reconsider who I really am. But I don't feel that Wimbledon has changed me. I feel, in fact, as if I've been let in on a dirty little secret. Winning changes nothing. Now that I've won a slam, I know something that very few people on earth are permitted to know. A win doesn't feel as good as a loss feels bad, and the good feeling doesn't last as long as the bad. Not even close. I do feel happier in the summer of 1992, and more substantive, but the cause isn't Wimbledon. It's Wendy. We've grown closer. We've whispered promises to each other. I've accepted that I'm not meant to be with Steffi. It was a nice fantasy while it lasted, but I've devoted myself to Wendy, and vice versa. She doesn't work, doesn't go to school. She's been to several colleges and none was right. So now she spends all her time with me. In 1992, however, spending time together suddenly becomes more complicated. Sitting in a movie theater, eating in a restaurant, we're never truly alone. People appear from nowhere, requesting my picture, demanding my autograph, seeking my attention or opinion. Wimbledon has made me famous. I thought I was famous long ago. I signed my first autograph when I was 6, but now I discover that I was actually infamous. Wimbledon has legitimized me, broadened and deepened my appeal, at least according to my agents and managers and marketing experts with whom I now regularly meet. People want to get closer to me. They feel they have that right. I understand that there's a tax on everything in America. Now I discover that this is the tax on success in sports. 15 seconds of time for every fan. I can accept this intellectually. I just wish it didn't mean the loss of privacy with my girl. Wendy shrugs it off. She's a good sport about every intrusion. She keeps me from taking anything too seriously, including myself. With her help, I decide that the best approach to being famous is to forget you're famous. I work hard at putting fame out of my mind. But fame is a force. It's unstoppable. You shut your windows to fame and it slides under the door. I turn around one day and discover that I have dozens of famous friends, and I don't know how I met half of them. I'm invited to parties and VIP rooms, events and galas where the famous gather, and many ask for my phone number or press their numbers on me. In the same way that my win at Wimbledon automatically made me a lifetime member of the All England Club, it also admitted me to this nebulous famous people's club. My circle of acquaintances now includes Kenny G, Kevin Costner, and Barbra Streisand. I'm invited to spend the night at the White House to eat dinner with President George Bush before his summit with Mikhail Gorbachev. I sleep in the Lincoln bedroom. I find it surreal, then perfectly normal. I'm struck by how fast the surreal becomes the norm. I marvel at how unexciting it is to be famous, how mundane famous people are. They're confused, uncertain, insecure, and often hate what they do. It's something we always hear, like that old adage that money can't buy happiness, but we never believe it until we see it for ourselves. Seeing it in 1992 brings me a new measure of confidence. I'm sailing near Vancouver Island, vacationing with my new friend David Foster, the music producer. Shortly after Wendy and I board Foster's yacht, Costner comes aboard and invites us to join him on his yacht, anchored 50 yards away. We hit it off immediately. Even though he has a yacht, Costner seems like the classic man's man. Easygoing, funny, cool. He loves sports, follows them avidly, and assumes I do too. I tell him shyly that I don't follow sports, that I don't like them. How do you mean? I mean, I don't like sports. He laughs. You mean besides tennis? I hate tennis most of all. Right. I guess it's a grind. But you don't actually hate tennis. I do. Wendy and I spend much of the boating trip watching Costner's three children. Well-mannered, personable, they're also remarkably beautiful. They look as if they've tumbled out of one of my mother's Norman Rockwell puzzles. Shortly after meeting me, 4-year-old Joe Costner grabs at my pants leg and looks up at me with his big blue eyes. He shouts, "Let's play wrestle!" I pick him up and hold him upside down, and the sound of his giggling is one of the most delicious sounds I've ever heard. Wendy and I tell ourselves we're hopelessly charmed by the little Costners, but in reality we're deliberately playing at being their parents. Now and then I catch Wendy slipping away from the grown-ups to have another look at the children. I can see that she's going to be a great mother. I imagine being there by her side through it all, helping her raise 3 towheads with green eyes. The thought thrills me and her. I broach the subject of family, the future. She doesn't blink. She wants it too. Weeks later, Costner invites us to his house in Los Angeles for a preview of his new film, The Bodyguard. Wendy and I don't think much of the movie, but we swoon over the theme song, I Will Always Love You. This will be our song, Wendy says. Always. We sing this song to each other, quote it to each other, and when the song comes on the radio, we stop whatever we're doing and make goo-goo eyes at each other, which makes everyone around us sick. We couldn't care less. I tell Philly and Perry that I can imagine spending the rest of my life with Wendy, that I might soon propose. Philly gives me a full nod. Perry gives me the green light. Wendy is the one, I tell JP. What about Steffi Graf? She blew me off. Forget her. It's Wendy. I'm showing off my new toy for JP and Wendy. JP asks, "What's this thing called again?" A Hummer. They used it in the Gulf War. Mine is one of the first to be sold in the U.S. We're driving it all over the desert outside Vegas when we get stuck in the sand. JP jokes that they must not have run into any sand during the Gulf War. We hop out and set across the desert. I have a flight this afternoon and a match tomorrow. If I can't get us out of this desert, all kinds of people are going to be angry with me. But as we walk and walk, my match suddenly seems a trivial matter. Survival starts to be a real concern. In every direction, we see nothing, and darkness is coming on. It feels as though this might become a turning point in our lives, JP says, and I don't mean in a good way. Thanks for the positive thinking. Finally, we come to a shack. An old hermit loans us his shovel. We hike back to the Hummer, and I hurriedly set about digging around the back wheel. Suddenly my shovel hits something hard. Caliche, the cement-like layer of soil under the Nevada desert. I feel something snap deep inside my wrist. I cry out. "What is it?" Wendy says. "I don't know." I look at my wrist. "Rub some dirt on it," JP says. I dig out the Hummer, make my flight, even win my match the next day. Days later, however, I wake in agony. The wrist feels broken. I can barely bend it back and forth. I feel as if several sewing needles and rusty razor blades have been implanted in the joint. This is bad. This is big. Then the pain goes away. I'm relieved. Then it comes back. I'm scared. Soon the occasional pain becomes constant. It's tolerable in the morning, but by day's end, the needle razor feeling is all I can think about. A doctor says I have tendinitis, specifically dorsal capsulitis, tiny rips in the wrist that refuse to heal. The result of overuse, he says. The only possible cures are rest and surgery. I choose rest. I shut myself down, gentle the wrist. After weeks of carrying the wrist around like a wounded bird, I still can't work out, do a push-up, or open a door without grimacing. The one upside of the wrist injury is that I get to spend more time with Wendy. Instead of hardcore season, the start of 1993 becomes Wendy season, and I throw myself into it. She enjoys the extra attention, but she also worries that she's neglecting her studies. She's enrolled in yet another college, her 5th or 6th. I've lost track. Driving along Rainbow Boulevard, steering with my left hand to avoid engaging my bad right wrist, I roll down the window and turn up the radio. The spring breeze flutters Wendy's hair. She turns down the radio and says how long it's been since she really knew what she wanted. I nod and turn up the radio. She turns down the radio and says she's attended all these different colleges, lived in all these different states. She's been searching her whole life for meaning, purpose. Nothing ever feels right. She just can't seem to figure out who she is. Again, I nod. I agree. I know that feeling. Winning Wimbledon has done nothing to salve it. Then I look over at Wendy and realize she's not just idly talking. She's going somewhere with this. She's making a point about us. She turns in her seat and looks me in the eye. Andre, I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I just don't think I can be happy, really happy, until I figure out who I am and what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I don't see how I can do that if we stay together. She's crying. I can't be your traveling companion, she says, your sidekick, your fan anymore. Well, I'll always be your fan, but you know what I mean. She needs to find herself, and to do that, she needs to be free. And so do you, she says. We can't realize our separate goals if we stay together. Even an open relationship is too confining. I can't argue with her. If that's how she feels, there's nothing I can say. I want her to be happy. Of course, at this moment, our song comes on the radio. I Will Always Love You. I stare at Wendy, try to catch her eye, but she keeps her face turned away. I make a U-turn, drive back to her house, walk her to the door. She gives me one long, last hug. I drive away and barely make it to the end of the block before pulling over and phoning Perry. When he answers, I can't speak. I'm crying too hard. He thinks it's a prank call. Hello, he says, annoyed. Hello? He hangs up. I call back, but still can't speak. Again, he hangs up. I go underground. I hole up in the bachelor pad, boozing, sleeping, eating junk. I feel shooting pains in my chest. I tell Gil. He says it sounds like a typical broken heart. Tiny rips that refuse to heal, the result of overuse. Then he says, what are we doing about Wimbledon? Time to start thinking about getting ourselves overseas. Time to throw down, Andre. It's on. I can barely hold the phone, let alone a tennis racket. Still, I want to go. I could use the distraction. I could use some time on the road with Gil, working on a common goal. Also, I'm defending champion. I have no choice. Right before our flight, Gil arranges for a doctor in Seattle, who's supposed to be the best, to give me a shot of cortisone. The shot works. I arrive in Europe, wiggling the wrist, pain-free. We go first to Halle, Germany, for a tune-up tournament. Nick meets us there and immediately puts the touch on me for money. He sold the Bollettieri Academy because he got himself into debt, and it was the biggest mistake of his life. He let it go for too little. Now he needs cash. He's not himself, or maybe he's more himself. He says he's not getting paid what he's worth. He says I've been an unsound investment. He spent hundreds of thousands of dollars developing me, and he's entitled to hundreds of thousands above the hundreds of thousands I've already given him. I ask if we can please talk about this back home. I have a few things weighing on my mind right now. Of course, he says, when we get back. I'm so shaken by the confrontation that in the Halle tournament, I fall on my face in my first-round match against Steve. He beats me in 3 sets. So much for the tune-up. I've barely played in the last year, and when I've played badly, so I'm the lowest-seeded defending champ in Wimbledon history. My first match on center court is against Bernd Karbacher, a German whose thick hair always looks the same, from the beginning of the match to the end, which irks me for obvious reasons. Everything about Karbacher seems designed to distract. Apart from his enviable locks, he's bow-legged. He walks as if he not only sits on a horse all day, but as if he just dismounted and it's been a long ride and his ass is chapped. Befitting his appearance, he plays a very odd game. His backhand is huge, one of the game's best, but he uses it to avoid running. He hates running, hates moving. At times he doesn't care much for serving either. He has an aggressive first serve, but not much of a second serve. With my numbed wrist, I have my own serve issues. I'll have to alter my motion. taking only a small backswing, limiting sudden movements. Naturally, this causes problems. I fall behind quickly in the first set, 2-5. I'm about to become the first defending champion in decades to get knocked out in the first round. But I collect myself, force myself to make peace with my new serve, and tough out the win. Carbacher hops on his horse and rides away. British fans are kind. They cheer, they roar, they appreciate the effort it's taken to get my wrist ready. British tabloids, however, are another matter. They're filled with venom. They carry strange stories about, of all things, my chest, which I've recently shaved. Just a bit of innocent manscaping, but you'd think I'd cut off a limb. My wrist is broken, and they talk only about my chest. My news conferences turn into Monty Python skits. Every other question about my newly smooth pectorals. British reporters are hair-obsessed. If they only knew the truth about the hair on my head. Several tabloids also say I'm fat, and writers take malicious joy in calling me Burger King. Gill tries to blame my appearance on the cortisone injection in my wrist, which can cause bloating, but no one is buying it. However, nothing fascinates the Brits quite like Barbra Streisand. She arrives at center court to watch me play, and there is practically a flurry of trumpets. Celebrities attend Wimbledon all the time, but Barbara's appearance causes a stir like none I've seen. Reporters harass her, then later pester me about her, and the tabloids take great pains to dissect and belittle our relationship, which is nothing more than a passionate friendship. They want to know how we met. I refuse to tell them, because Barbara is the shyest, most private person I know. It began with Steve Wynn, the casino impresario whom I'd known since I was a kid. He and I were playing golf one day, and I mentioned that I enjoyed Barbra Streisand's music. He said she was a good friend. Thus began a series of phone calls, during which Barbara and I connected. When I won Wimbledon, she sent a sweet telegram congratulating me, telling me sarcastically it was nice to put a face with the voice. She invited me weeks later to a small get-together at her ranch in Malibu. David Foster would be there, she said, and a few other friends. Finally, we'd meet. Her ranch was dotted with cottages, one of which was a movie theater. After a luncheon, we wandered down there for a sneak preview of The Joy Luck Club, a quintessential chick flick, during which I thought I might expire of boredom. Then we all wandered over to another cottage, a music salon, with a grand piano under a window. We stood around eating and talking while David sat at the piano, playing a medley of torch songs. He made several attempts to get Barbara to sing. She wouldn't. He persisted. She refused. He kept after her until it became awkward. I wished he would stop. Barbara's elbows were resting on the piano, and her back was to me. I saw her stiffen. She was clearly petrified about performing in front of other people. Not 5 minutes later, however, she let fly a few bars. The sound filled the room from the rafters to the floorboards. Everyone stopped talking. Glasses shook. Flatware rattled. The bones in my ribs and wrist vibrated. I briefly thought someone had put one of Barbara's albums on a Bose sound system and turned the volume up full blast. I couldn't believe that a human being was capable of producing that much sound, that a human voice could pervade every square inch of a room. From that moment, I was even more intrigued by Barbara. The idea that she possessed such a devastating instrument, such a powerful talent, and couldn't use it freely for pleasure was fascinating and familiar and depressing. We met soon after that day. She invited me to the ranch. We shared a pizza and talked for hours, discovering many things in common. She was a tortured perfectionist who hated doing something at which she excelled, and yet, despite years of semi-retirement, despite all her self-doubts and nagging fears, she admitted that she was pondering a comeback to the concert stage. I urged her to do it. I told her it was wrong to deprive the world of that voice, that astonishing voice. Above all, I told her that it would be dangerous to surrender to fear. Fears are like gateway drugs, I said. You give in to a small one, and soon you're giving in to bigger ones. So what if she didn't want to perform? She had to. Naturally, I felt like a hypocrite every time I said this to Barbara. In my own struggles with fear and perfectionism, I was losing more than I won. I talked to her the way I talked to reporters. I told her things I knew to be true and things I hoped to be true, most of which I couldn't bring myself to fully believe and act on. After we'd spent one long spring afternoon playing tennis, I told Barbara about a new singer I'd seen in Vegas, a woman with a big voice not unlike Barbara's. I asked, "Do you want to hear her?" "Sure." I brought her out to my car and put in a CD by this new sensation, a Canadian named Celine Dion. Barbara listened closely, biting her thumbnail. I could tell she was thinking, I could do that. She was picturing herself back in the game. Again, I felt helpful, but also like a raging hypocrite. My sense of hypocrisy reached a crescendo when Barbara finally did push herself to perform. There I was, front row, wearing a black baseball cap. My hairpiece was malfunctioning again, and I feared what people would think and say. Beyond being a hypocrite that night, I felt a slave to fear. More often than not, Barbara and I laugh at the shock and scandal our dates cause. We agree that we're good for each other, and so what if she's 28 years older? We're simpatico, and the public outcry only adds spice to our connection. It makes our friendship feel forbidden, taboo, another piece of my overall rebellion. Dating Barbara Streisand is like wearing hot lava. Still, if I'm fatigued, if I'm not in the right mood, as is the case at Wimbledon, then the public belittling can sting. And Barbara plays into the hands of the belittlers by telling a reporter that I'm a Zen master. Newspapers have a field day with this comment. I begin to hear the Zen master quote constantly. It briefly replaces "image is everything." I don't understand the reaction, maybe because I don't know what a Zen master is. I can only assume it's a good thing, since Barbara's a friend. Brushing aside the subject of Barbara, avoiding newspapers and TV, I stay on task at the 1993 Wimbledon. After surviving Kerbacher, I beat João Cunha Silva from Portugal, Patrick Rafter from Australia, then Richard Krajicek from the Netherlands. I'm in the quarters facing Pete. As always, it's Pete. I wonder how my wrist can possibly hold up against his serve, which he's developed into a force. But Pete's suffering his own aches and pains. His shoulder is sore, his game is a tad off, or so they say. You never know it the way he comes out against me. He wins the first set in less time than I spent getting dressed for the match. He wins the second set just as fast. Going to be a short day, I tell myself. I look up at my box, and there's Barbara, flashes going off around her. I think, is this really my life? As the third set begins, Pete stumbles. I get a second wind. The set falls to me, as does the fourth. The wheel clicks in my direction. I see fear creep into Pete's face. We're tied, 2 sets apiece, and doubt, unmistakable doubt, is trailing him like the long afternoon shadows on the Wimbledon grass. For once, it's not me, but Pete yelling and cursing at himself. In the 5th set, Pete's wincing, kneading his shoulder. He asks for a trainer. During the delay, while he's being worked on, I tell myself this match is mine. 2 Wimbledons in a row. Won't that be something? We'll see what the tabloids have to say then, or what I'll say. How do you like your Burger King now? When we resume play, however, Pete is a different person. Not revived, not re-energized, wholly different. He's done it again, sloughed off that other doubt-ridden Pete as a snake sheds its skin. And now he's in the process of shedding me. Leading 5-4, he starts the 10th game of the set by blasting 3 straight aces. But not only just any aces, they even have a different sound about them, like Civil War cannons. Triple match point. Suddenly he's walking toward the net, extending his hand, the victor once again. The handshake physically hurts, and it has nothing to do with my tender wrist. Back at the bachelor pad, days after losing to Pete, I have one simple goal. I want to avoid thinking about tennis for 7 days. I just need a break. I'm heart sore, wrist sore, bone tired. I need to do nothing for 1 week. Just sit and be quiet. No pain, no drama, no serves, no tabloids, no singers, no match points. I'm sipping my first cup of coffee, flipping through USA Today when a headline catches my eye. Because my name is in it. Voluntary parts ways with Agassi. Nick tells the newspaper he's done with me. He wants to spend more time with his family. After 10 years, this is how he lets me know. Not even a panda ass up in my chair. Minutes later, a FedEx envelope arrives with a letter from Nick. It says no more than the newspaper story. I read it a few dozen times before putting it in a shoebox. I go to the mirror. I don't feel all that bad. I don't feel anything. Numb. As if the cortisone has spread from my wrist to engulf my being. I drive over to Gil's and sit with him in the gym. He listens and feels bad and angry right along with me. Well, I say, I guess it's break up with Andre time. First Wendy, now Nick. My entourage is thinning faster than my hair. Though it makes no sense, I'd like to get on the court again. I want the pain that only tennis provides. But not this much pain. The cortisone has completely worn off, and the needle razor feeling in my wrist is simply too much. I see a new doctor who says the wrist needs surgery. I see another doctor who says more resting might do the trick. I side with the rest doctor. After 4 weeks of rest, however, I realize with one swing that surgery is my only option. I just don't trust surgeons. I trust very few people, and I especially dislike the notion of trusting one perfect stranger, surrendering all control to one person whom I've only just met. I cringe at the thought of lying on a table, unconscious, while someone slices open the wrist with which I make my living. What if he's distracted that day? What if he's off? I see it happening on the court all the time. Half the time it's happening to me. I'm in the top 10, but some days you'd think I was a rank amateur. What if my surgeon is the Andre Agassi of medicine? What if he doesn't have his A game that day? What if he's drunk or on drugs? I asked Gil to be there in the operating room during my surgery. I want him to act as sentry, monitor, backstop, witness. In other words, I want him to do what he always does, stand guard, but this time wearing a gown and mask. He frowns. He shakes his head. He doesn't know. Gil has several endearingly dainty qualities, like his horror of the sun, but most endearing is his squeamish streak. He can't abide the sight of needles. He gets the willies when he has to have a flu shot. For me, however, he'll rally, he says. I'll tough it out. I owe you one, I tell him. Never, he says. No such thing as debts between us. On December 19th, 1993, Gil and I fly to Santa Barbara and check into the hospital. As nurses flutter around prepping me, I tell Gil that I feel so nervous I might pass out. Then they won't need to give you the gas. This could be it, Gil, the end of my tennis career. No. Then what? What will I do? They put a mask over my nose and mouth. Breathe deeply, they say. My eyelids are heavy. I fight to keep them open, fight against the loss of control. Don't go away, Gil. Don't leave me. I stare at Gil's black eyes, above his surgical mask, watching, unblinking. Gil is here, I tell myself. Gil's got this. Gil's on duty. Everything's going to be all right. I let my eyes close, let a kind of mist swallow me, and a half-second later I'm waking, and Gil is leaning over me, saying the wrist was worse than they thought, much worse, but they cleaned it out, Andre, and we'll hope for the best. That's all we can do, right? Hope for the best. I take up residence on the green chenille double-stuffed goose-down couch, remote in one hand, phone in the other. The surgeon says I must keep my wrist elevated for several days, so I lie with it propped on a large, hard pillow. Though I'm on powerful pain pills, I still feel wounded, worried, vulnerable. At least I have something to distract me. A woman, a friend of Kenny G's wife, Lindy. I met Kenny G through Michael Bolton, whom I met while playing Davis Cup. We were all at the same hotel. Then, out of the blue, Lindy phoned me and said she'd met the perfect woman. Well, I like perfect. I think you two will really hit it off. Why? She's beautiful, brilliant, sophisticated, funny. I don't think so. I'm still trying to get over Wendy. Plus, I don't do setups. You'll do this setup. Her name is Brooke Shields. I've heard of her. What have you got to lose? Plenty. Andre, I'll think about it. What's her number? You can't phone her. She's in South Africa doing a film. She must have a phone. Nope, she's in the middle of nowhere. She's in a tent or a hut in the bush. You can only reach her by fax. She gave me Brooke's fax number and asked for mine. I don't have a fax. It's the only gadget I don't have in the house. I gave her Philly's fax number. Then, just before my surgery, I got a call from Philly. You have a fax here at my house from Brooke Shields? And so it began, faxes back and forth, a long-distance correspondence with a woman I'd never met. What began oddly became progressively more odd. The pace of the conversation was outrageously slow, and this suited us both. Neither of us was in any hurry. But the enormous geographical distance also led us to quickly let down our guard. We segued within a few faxes from innocent flirting to innermost secrets. Within a few weeks, our faxes took on a tone of fondness, then intimacy. I felt as if I were going steady with this woman I'd never met or spoken to. I stopped phoning Barbara. Now, immobilized, my bandaged wrist propped on the window, I have nothing to do but obsess about the next fax to Brooke. Gil comes over some days and helps me work through several drafts. I'm intimidated by the fact that Brooke graduated from Princeton with a degree in French literature, whereas I dropped out of 9th grade. Gil brushes aside such talk, pumps up my confidence. Besides, he says, don't worry about whether she likes you. Worry about whether you like her. Yeah, I say. Yeah, you're right. So I asked him to rent the collected works of Brooke Shields, and we have a 2-man film festival. We make popcorn, dim the lights, and Gil puts in the first movie, The Blue Lagoon. Brooke is a prepubescent mermaid stranded with a boy on an island paradise. A retelling of Adam and Eve. We rewind, fast forward, freeze frame, debate if Brooke Shields is my type. Not bad, Gil says. Not bad at all. She's definitely worth another fax. The courtship via fax continues for weeks until Brooke sends a short fax saying she's finished filming her movie and she's coming back to the U.S. She'll be here in 2 weeks. She lands at LAX. By coincidence, I have to be in Los Angeles the day after she arrives. I'm filming an interview with Jim Rome. We meet at her house. I race there straight from the studio, still wearing the heavy TV makeup for my interview with Rome. She throws open the door, looking very much the movie star, wearing a flowing scarfy thing around her neck, and no makeup, or at least less than I. But her hair is chopped short, which gives me a jolt. All this time, I've been picturing her with long flowing hair. I cut it for a part, she says. In what? Bad News Bears? Her mother appears from nowhere. We shake hands. She's cordial, but stiff. I get a strange vibe. I know instinctively, regardless of what happens, this woman and I will never get along. I drive Brooke to dinner. Along the way, I ask, do you live with your mother? Yes. Well, no, not really. It's complicated. It always is with parents. We go to Pasta Maria, a little Italian joint on San Vicente. I ask to be seated in a corner of the restaurant so we can have privacy. And it doesn't take long before I forget about Brooke's mother, her haircut, everything. She has remarkable poise and charisma, and she's surprisingly funny. We both laugh when the waiter comes to our table and asks, have you two ladies had a chance to look over the menu? Might be time for a haircut, I say. I ask about the movie Brooke just wrapped in Africa. Does she like being an actress? She talks with passion about the adventure of filmmaking, the fun of working with talented actors and directors, and it strikes me that she's the polar opposite of Wendy, who never knew what she wanted. Brooke knows exactly what she wants. She sees her dreams and doesn't falter in describing them, even if she's having trouble figuring out how to make them come true. 5 years older than I, she's more worldly, more aware, and yet she also gives off an airy innocence, a neediness, which makes me want to protect her. She brings out the Gil in me, a side I didn't know I had. We say most of the same things we've said by fax, but now in person, over plates of pasta, they sound different, more intimate. There is nuance now, subtext, body language, and pheromones. Also, she's making me laugh a lot, and making herself laugh. She has a lovely laugh. As with my wrist surgery, 3 hours pass in a millisecond. She's exceptionally kind and sweet about my wrist, examining the inch-long pink scar, touching it lightly, asking questions. She's also empathetic because she's facing surgery too, on both her feet. Her toes are damaged from years of dance training, she says, and doctors will need to break them and reset them. I tell her about Gil standing guard in the operating room with me, and she asks, joking, if she can borrow him. We discover that, despite our outwardly different lives, we share similar starting points. She knows what it's like to grow up with a brash, ambitious, abrasive stage parent. Her mother has been her manager since Brooke was 11 months old. The difference? Her mother still manages her. And they're nearly broke because Brooke's career is slumping. The Africa movie was the first big job she's landed in a while. She does coffee commercials in Europe just to pay the mortgage. She says things like this, startlingly candid, as if we've known each other for decades. It's not only that we've softened the ground with faxes. She's just naturally open all the time, I can tell. I wish I could be half as open. I can't tell her much about my own inner torments, though I can't avoid admitting that I hate tennis. She laughs. You don't actually hate tennis. Yes, but you don't hate it. I do. I hate it. We talk about our travels, our favorite foods, music, movies. We bond over one recent movie, Shadowlands, the story of British writer C.S. Lewis. I tell Brooke that the movie struck a chord with me. There was Lewis's close relationship with his brother. There was his sheltered life, walled off from the world. There was his fear of risk and the pain of love. But then one singularly brave woman makes him see that pain is a price of being human and well worth it. In the end, Lewis tells his students, pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world. He tells them, we are like blocks of stone. The blows of his chisel, which hurt us so much, are what make us perfect. Perry and I have seen the movie twice, I tell Brooke, and we've memorized half the lines. I'm moved that Brooke too loves Shadowlands. I'm slightly awed that she's read several of Lewis's books. Well after midnight, lingering over empty coffee cups, we can no longer ignore the impatient stares of the waiters and restaurant owner. We need to go. I drive Brooke home, and on the sidewalk outside her house, I have a feeling that her mother is watching us through an upstairs curtain. I give Brooke a chaste kiss and ask if I can call her again. Please do. As I walk away, she notices a hole in my jeans at the small of my back. She sticks her finger through the hole, scratching my tailbone with her nail. She flashes a sly grin before running inside. I'd drive my rental car along Sunset Boulevard. I'd planned to head back to Vegas, never dreaming the date would go so well or last so long, but it's too late to catch a flight. I decide to stop for the night at the next hotel I come to, which turns out to be a Holiday Inn that's seen better days. 10 minutes later, I'm lying in a musty room on the second floor, listening to traffic hissing along Sunset and the 405. I try to review the date, and more importantly, to reach some conclusions about it, about what it means. But my eyelids are heavy. I fight to keep them open. Fight, as always, the loss of control, which feels like the ultimate loss of choice. Chapter 15. My third date with Brooke is the night before her foot surgery. We're in Manhattan, in the ground floor sitting room of her brownstone. We're kissing, on the verge, but first I need to tell her the truth about my hair. She can sense that I have something on my mind. "What's wrong?" she asks. "Nothing. You can tell me. It's just that I haven't been completely honest with you." We're lying on a couch. I sit up, punch a pillow, take a breath. Still searching for the right words, I look at the walls. They're decorated with African masks, eyeless faces with no hair. They're eerie, also vaguely familiar. "Andre, what is it?" "This isn't easy to admit, Brooke, but look, I've been losing my hair for quite some time, and I wear a hairpiece to cover it up." I reach out, take her hand, put it on my hairpiece. She smiles. "I had a feeling," she says. "You did? It's no big deal. You're not just saying that? It's your eyes I find attractive, and your heart, not your hair." I stare at the eyeless, hairless faces and wonder if I'm falling. I go with Brooke to the hospital and wait for her in the recovery room. I'm there when they wheel her in, her feet bandaged like mine before a match, and I'm there when she wakes up. I feel an enormous surge of protectiveness and tenderness, which ebbs when she gets a phone call from her close friend, Michael Jackson. I can't fathom her continuing friendship with Jackson, giving all the stories and accusations. But Brooke says he's just like us, another prodigy who didn't have a childhood. I follow Brooke home and spend days at her bedside while she recuperates. Her mother finds me one morning on the floor beside Brooke's bed. She's scandalized. "Sleeping on the floor? It simply isn't done." I tell her that I prefer sleeping on the floor, my back. She walks away in a huff. I kiss Brooke good morning. "Your mother and I are getting off on the wrong foot." We look down at her feet. Poor choice of words. "I need to leave. I'm due in Scottsdale for my first tournament since the surgery." "See you in a few weeks," I tell her, kissing her again, holding her. I have an easy draw in Scottsdale, but this doesn't make me any less fearful. Here comes the first real test of my wrist. What if it's not healed? What if it's worse? I have a recurring nightmare about being in the middle of a match and my hand falling off. I'm in my hotel room, closing my eyes, trying to visualize the wrist being fine and the match going well, when there's a knock on the door. "Who is it?" "Brooke." With 2 broken feet, she rallied to be here. I win the tournament, feeling no pain. Weeks later, Pete and I agree to do a simultaneous interview with a magazine reporter. Pete comes in my hotel room where the interview is to take place, and he's shocked to meet Peaches. "What the hell?" Pete says. "Pete, meet Peaches. She's an old parrot I rescued from a Vegas pet store that was going out of business." "Nice bird," Pete says mockingly. "She is a nice bird," I say. "She doesn't bite. She imitates people." "Like who?" "Like me. She sneezes like me, talks like me, except she has a better vocabulary." I crack up every time the phone rings. Peaches yells, "Telephone! Telephone!" I tell Pete that back in Vegas, I have a whole menagerie. A cat named King, a rabbit named Buddy, whatever it takes to fend off the loneliness. No man is an island. He shakes his head. Apparently he doesn't find tennis as lonely as I do. We do the interview, and suddenly I feel as if I'm in the room with 2 parrots. At least when I bullshit a reporter, I do it with some flair, a little color. Pete sounds more robotic than Peaches. I don't bother telling Pete, but I consider Peaches an integral part of my team, which is ever-growing, ever-changing, a constant experiment. I lost Nick and Wendy, but I've added Brooke and Slim, a bright, sweet kid from Vegas. We went to grade school together. We were born a day apart, at the same hospital. Slim is a good guy, if a lost soul, so I put him to work as my personal assistant. He watches my house, lets in the pool guy and the various handymen, sorts the mail, and answers fan requests for photos and autographs. Now I think I might need to add a manager to the team. I pull Perry aside and ask him to take a look at my current management, see if they're overcharging me. He reviews the contracts and says that indeed I could do better. I put my arms around him, thank him, then get an idea. Why don't you be my manager, Perry? I need someone I trust. I know he's busy. He's in his second year at the University of Arizona Law School, busting his ass. But I ask him to please consider taking this on, at least part-time. I don't need to ask twice. Perry wants the job, and he wants to start right away. He'll work between classes, he says, mornings, weekends, whenever. Aside from being a great opportunity, the job will enable him to whittle down what he owes me. I loaned Perry the money for law school because he didn't want to ask his father. He sat before me one night, telling me how his father uses money to control people, especially Perry. I have to break free of my father, Perry said. I've got to break free, Andre, once and for all. There were a few pleas I could find more compelling. I wrote him a check on the spot. As my new manager, Perry's primary task is finding me a new coach, someone to replace Nick. He draws up a short list of candidates, and at the top of the list is a guy who's just written a book about tennis, Winning Ugly. Perry hands me the book, urges me to read it. I shoot him a dirty look. Thanks, no thanks. No more school for me. Besides, I don't need to read the book. I know the author, Brad Gilbert. I know him well. He's a fellow player. I've faced him many times, including weeks ago. His game is the opposite of mine. He's a junker, meaning he mixes speeds, uses change of pace, misdirection, guile. He has limited skills and takes a conspicuous pride in this fact. If I'm the classic underachiever, Brad's the consummate overachiever. Rather than overpowering his opponents, he frustrates them, preys on their flaws. He's preyed on me plenty. I'm intrigued, but it's not feasible. Brad's still playing. In fact, due to my surgery and my time away from the game, he's ranked higher than I. No, Perry says, Brad is nearing the end of his career. He's 32, and maybe he's open to the idea of coaching. Perry repeats that he's deeply impressed with Brad's book and thinks it contains the kind of practical wisdom I need. In March 1994, when we're all in Key Biscayne for the tournament, Perry invites Brad to dinner at an Italian restaurant on Fisher Island. Cafe Port Chervo, right on the water, one of our favorites. It's early evening. The sun is just disappearing behind the masts and sails of the boats on the dock. Perry and I are early. Brad is right on time. I'd forgotten how distinctive-looking he is. Dark, rugged, he's certainly handsome, but not classically so. His features aren't chiseled. They look molded. I can't shake the idea that Brad looks like early man, that he just jumped from a time machine, slightly out of breath from discovering fire. Maybe it's all his hair that makes me think this. His head, arms, biceps, shoulders, face are covered with black hair. Brad has so much hair, I'm both horrified and jealous. His eyebrows alone are fascinating. I think I could make a beautiful toupee out of just that left eyebrow. The maitre d', Renato, says we can sit on the terrace overlooking the dock. I say, sounds great. No, Brad says, we have to sit inside. Why? Because of Manny. Excuse me? Who's Manny? Manny Mosquito. Mosquitoes. Yeah, I have a real thing about them. And trust me, Manny is here. Manny is out in force. And Manny likes me. Look at them all. Swarms. Look. No, I need to sit inside, far from Manny. He explains that mosquitoes are the reason he's wearing jeans instead of shorts, even though it's 100 degrees and muggy. Manny, he says one last time, with a shudder. Perry and I look at each other. Okay, Perry says, inside it is. Renato puts us at a table by the window. He hands us menus. Brad scans his and frowns. Problem, he says. What? They don't carry my beer. Bud Ice. Maybe they have. Got to have Bud Ice. It's the only beer I drink. He stands and says he's going to the market next door to buy some Bud Ice. Perry and I order a bottle of red wine and wait. We say nothing while Brad's gone. He returns in 5 minutes with a 6-pack of Bud Ice, which he asks Renato to put on ice. Not the refrigerator, Brad says, because that's not cold enough. On ice, or else in the freezer. When Brad is finally settled, half a cold Bud Ice down his gullet, Perry starts. So listen, Brad, one reason we wanted to meet with you is we want to get your take on Andre's game. Say what? Andre's game. We'd like you to tell us what you think. What I think? Yes. You want to know what I think of his game. That's right. You want me to be honest? Please. Brutally honest? Don't hold back. He takes an enormous swallow of beer and commences a careful, thorough, brutal as advertised summary of my flaws as a tennis player. It's not rocket science, he says. If I were you, with your skills, your talent, your return and footwork, I'd dominate. But you've lost the fire you had when you were 16. That kid, taking the ball early, being aggressive. What the hell happened to that kid? Brad says my overall problem, the problem that threatens to end my career prematurely, the problem that feels like my father's legacy, is perfectionism. You always try to be perfect, he says, and you always fall short, and it fucks with your head. Your confidence is shot, and perfectionism is the reason. You try to hit a winner on every ball, and when just being steady, consistent, meat and potatoes would be enough to win 90% of the time. He talks a mile a minute, a constant drone, not unlike a mosquito. He builds his argument with sports metaphors, from all sports, indiscriminately. He's an avid sports fan and an equally avid metaphor fan. Quit going for the knockout, he says. Stop swinging for the fences. All you have to do is be solid. Singles, doubles, move the chains forward. Stop thinking about yourself and your own game, and remember that the guy on the other side of the net has weaknesses. Attack his weaknesses. You don't have to be the best in the world every time you go out there. You just have to be better than one guy. Instead of you succeeding, make him fail. Better yet, let him fail. It's all about the odds and percentages. You're from Vegas. You should have an appreciation of odds and percentages. The house always wins, right? Why? Because the odds are stacked in the house's favor. So, be the house. Get the odds in your favor. Right now, by trying for a perfect shot with every ball, you're stacking the odds against yourself. You're assuming too much risk. You don't need to assume too much risk. Fuck that. Just keep the ball moving. Back and forth. Nice and easy. Solid. Be like gravity, man. Just like motherfucking gravity. When you chase perfection, when you make perfection the ultimate goal, do you know what you're doing? You're chasing something that doesn't exist. You're making everyone around you miserable. You're making yourself miserable. Perfection? There's about 5 times a year you wake up perfect, when you can't lose to anybody. But it's not those 5 times a year that make a tennis player, or a human being, for that matter. It's the other times. It's all about your head, man. With your talent, if you're 50% game-wise, but 95% head-wise, you're going to win. But if you're 95% game-wise and 50% head-wise, you're going to lose. Again, since you're from Vegas, put it this way. It takes 21 sets to win a slam. That's all. You need to win just 21 sets, 7 matches, best of 5. That's 21. In tennis, like cards, 21's a winner. Blackjack? Focus on that number, and you won't go wrong. Simplify. Every time you win a set, say to yourself, that's 1 down. That's 1 in my pocket. At the start of a tournament, count backward from 21. That's positive thinking, see? Of course, speaking for myself, when I'm playing blackjack, I'd rather win with 16, because that's winning ugly. No need to win with 21. No need to be perfect. He's been speaking for 15 minutes. Perry and I haven't interrupted, haven't glanced at each other, haven't sipped our wine. At last, Brad drains his second beer and announces, "Where's the head in this place? I have to take a leak." The moment he's gone, I tell Perry, "That's our guy." "Absolutely. When Brad returns, the waiter comes for our order. Brad asks for a penne arrabbiata with grilled chicken and mozzarella. Perry orders chicken parmesan. Brad looks at Perry with disgust. "Bad call," he says. The waiter stops writing. "What you want to do," Brad says, "is order a chicken breast separate, then order all your mozzarella and sauce on the side. See, that way the chicken breast is fresh, not soggy. Plus you can control your chicken to cheese and sauce ratio." Perry thanks Brad for the menu coaching, but says he'll stick with his order. The waiter looks to me. I point at Brad and say, "I'll have whatever he's having." Brad smiles. Perry clears his throat and says, "So, Brad, would you have any interest in maybe becoming Andre's coach?" Brad thinks it over for 3 seconds. "Yeah," he says, "I think I'd like that. I think I can help you." I ask, "When can we start?" "Tomorrow," Brad says. "I'll meet you on the courts at 10 in the morning." "Huh. Well, that might be a problem. I never play before 1. "Andre," he says, "we start at 10. I'm late, of course. Brad looks at his watch. "Thought we said 10. Man, I don't even know what 10 a.m. means. We start hitting, and Brad starts talking. He doesn't stop, as though the hours between last night's monologue and this morning's workout have been a mere intermission. He's picking apart my game, anticipating and analyzing my shots as I make them. The main point he stresses is the backhand up the line. "The second you get a chance to take a backhand up the line," he says, "you got to do it. That's your money shot. That's your equity shot. You can pay a lot of bills with that shot." We play a few games, and he stops every other point to come to the net and tell me why I just did the dumbest possible thing. "What'd you do that for? I know it's a killer shot, but every shot doesn't have to be killer. Sometimes the best shot is a holding shot, an okay shot, a shot that gives the other guy a chance to miss. Let the other guy play." I like the way this feels. I respond to Brad's ideas, his enthusiasm, his energy. I find peace in his claim that perfectionism is voluntary. Perfectionism is something I chose, and it's ruining me. And I can choose something else. I must choose something else. No one has ever said this to me. I've always assumed perfectionism was like my thinning hair or my thickened spinal cord, an inborn part of me. After a light midday meal, I put my feet up, watch TV, read the papers, sit under a shade tree, then go out and win my match against Mark Petchey, a British kid my age. My next match is against Becker, who's now being coached by Nick. After saying publicly that he couldn't imagine coaching any of my rivals, Nick is now coaching one of my arch rivals. In fact, Nick's sitting in Becker's box. Becker is serving big, as always, 135 miles an hour, but with Nick in his corner, I'm juiced with adrenaline and able to handle anything he dishes up. And Becker knows it. He stops competing and plays to the crowd. Down a set and a break, he hands his racket to the ball girl as if to say, "Here, you can do as well as I'm doing." I'm thinking, yes, let her play. I'll beat the both of you. After dispatching Becker, I'm in the final. My opponent, Pete. As always, Pete. The match is slated for national TV. Brad and I are both keyed up as we walk into the locker room, only to find Pete lying on the ground. A doctor and a trainer are leaning over him. The tournament director hovers in the background. Pete brings his knees up to his chest and groans. "Food poisoning," the doctor says. Brad whispers to me, "Guess you just won Key Biscayne." The director takes Brad and me aside and asks if we'd be willing to give Pete time to recover. I feel Brad stiffen. I know what he wants me to say, but I tell the director, give Pete all the time he needs. The director sighs and puts his hand on my arm. "Thank you," he says. "We've got 14,000 people out there, plus the network." Brad and I lounge around the locker room, flipping channels on the TV, making phone calls. I dial Brooke, who's auditioning for Grease on Broadway. Otherwise, she'd be here. Brad shoots me an evil glare. "Relax," I tell him. "Pete probably won't get better." The doctor gives Pete an IV, then props him on his feet. Pete wobbles, a newborn colt. He'll never make it. The tournament director comes to us. "Pete's ready," he says. Fucking A, Brad says. So are we. Should be a short night, I tell Brad. But Pete does it again. He sends his evil twin onto the court. This is not the Pete who is curled in a ball on the locker room floor. This is not the Pete who is getting an IV and wobbling in circles. This Pete is in the prime of his life, serving at warp speed, barely breaking a sweat. He's playing his best tennis, unbeatable, and he jumps out to a 5-1 lead. Now I'm angry. I feel as if I found a wounded bird, brought it home, and nursed it back to health, only to have it try to peck my eyes out. I fight back and win the set. Surely I've withstood the only attack Pete can mount. He can't possibly have anything left. But in the second set, he's even better. And in the third, he's a freak. He wins the best-of-3 match. I burst into the locker room. Brad is waiting for me, seething. He says again that if he'd been in my place, he'd have forced Pete to forfeit. He'd have demanded that the director fork over the winner's check. That's not me, I tell Brad. I don't want to win like that. Besides, if I can't beat a guy who's poisoned, lying on the ground, I don't deserve it. Brad abruptly stops talking. His eyes get big. He nods. He can't argue with that. He respects my principles, he says, even though he doesn't agree. We walk out of the stadium together like Bogart and Claude Rains at the end of Casablanca, the beginning of a beautiful friendship, a vital new member of the team. Then the team goes on an epic losing streak. Adopting Brad's concepts is like learning to write with my left hand. He calls this philosophy Brad tennis. I call it Braditude. Whatever the hell it's called, it's hard. I feel as if I'm back in school, not comprehending, longing to be somewhere else. Again and again, Brad says I need to be consistent, steady, like gravity. He says this over and over. Be like gravity. Constant pressure weighing down your opponent. He tries to sell me on the joy of winning ugly, the virtue of winning ugly, but I know how to lose ugly and think ugly. I trust Brad. I know his advice is spot on. I do everything he says, so why am I not winning? I've given up perfectionism, so why am I not perfect? I go to Osaka, lose again to Pete. Instead of gravity, I'm like flubber. I go to Monte Carlo and lose to Yevgeny Kafelnikov in the first round. To add insult to injury, Kafelnikov is asked at the post-match news conference how it felt to beat me since so many fans were cheering for me. Difficult, Kafelnikov says, because Agassi is like Jesus. I don't know what he means, but I don't think it's a compliment. I go to Duluth, Georgia, lose to Malevai, Washington. Afterward, in the locker room, I feel crushed. Brad appears, smiling. Good things, he says, are about to happen. I stare, incredulous. He says, you have to suffer. You have to lose a shitload of close matches, and then one day you're going to win a close one, and the skies are going to part, and you're going to break through. You just need that one breakthrough, that one opening, and after that, nothing will stop you from being the best in the world. You're crazy. You're learning. You're nuts. You'll see. I go to the 1994 French Open and play 5 vicious sets with Thomas Muster. Down 1-5 in the 5th set, something happens. I always hear Brad's philosophy in my head, but now it's coming from inside, not outside. I've internalized it, the way I once did my father's voice. I claw back and tie the set at 5. Muster breaks me. He's serving for the match. Still, I get the game to 30-40. I have hope. I'm on my toes, ready, but he hits a backhand I can't handle. I reach, hit it wide. Match, Muster. At the net, he rubs my head, musses my hair. Apart from being condescending, his gesture nearly dislodges my hairpiece. Good try, he says. I stare at him with pure hatred. Big mistake, Muster. Don't touch the hair. Don't ever touch the hair. Just for that, I tell him at the net, I'll make you a promise. I'll never lose to you again. In the locker room, Brad congratulates me. Good things, he says, are about to happen. What? He nods. Trust me. Good things. Clearly he doesn't understand the pain that losing causes me, and when someone doesn't understand, there's no point trying to explain. At the 1994 Wimbledon, I reached the fourth round, but lose a nail-biter to Todd Martin. I'm wounded, frightened, disappointed. In the locker room, Brad smiles and says, "Good things." We go to the Canadian Open. Brad shocks me at the start of the tournament. Good things, he says, are not about to happen. On the contrary, he sees a few very bad things on the horizon. He's looking over my draw. NG, he says. What the hell does NG mean? Not good. You've got a terrible draw. Let me see that. I snatch the paper from his hands. He's right. My first match is a gimme against Jakub Lasek from Switzerland, but the second round, I'll get David Wheaton, who always gives me a host of problems. Still, I love few things more than low expectations. Just tell me I can't do something. I inform Brad that I'm going to win the whole thing. And when I do, I add, you have to get an earring. I don't like jewelry, he says. He thinks about it. Okay, he says. Done and done. The court at the Canadian Open feels impossibly small, which makes the opponent look bigger. Wheaton is a big guy, but here in Canada, he looks 10 feet tall. It's an optical illusion, but still, I feel as if he's standing 2 inches from my face. Distracted, I find myself down 2 match points in the third set tiebreak. Then, wholly out of character, I pull myself together. I shake off all distractions and optical illusions and fight back and win. I do what Brad said I would do. I win a close one. Later, I tell Brad, that's the match you said I'd win. That's the match you said would change things. He smiles as if I just sat down in a restaurant all by myself and ordered the chicken parm with the chicken breast separate from the sauce and cheese. Very good, grasshopper. Wax on, wax off. My game speeding up, my mind slowing down. I storm through the rest of the draw and win the Canadian Open. Brad chooses a diamond stud. Going into the 1994 U.S. Open, I'm number 20, therefore unseeded. No unseeded player has won the U.S. Open since the 1960s. Brad likes it. He says he wants me unseeded. He wants me to be the joker in the deck. You'll play someone tough in the early rounds, he says, and if you beat them, you'll win this tournament. He's sure of it. So sure, he vows to shave his entire body when I do. I'm always telling Brad he's too hairy. He makes Sasquatch look like Kojak. He needs to trim that chest, those arms, and those eyebrows. Either trim them or name them. Trust me, I tell him, you shave that chest and you'll feel things you've never felt before. Win the U.S. Open, he says, and so will you. Because of my low ranking, I'm under the radar at this U.S. Open. I'd be more under the radar if Brooke weren't on hand, setting off a photo shoot each time she turns her head. I'm all business, and I dress the part. I wear a black hat, black shorts, black socks, black and white shoes. But at the start of my first rounder against Robert Eriksson, I feel the old brittle nerves. I feel sick to my stomach. I fight through it, thinking of Brad, refusing to entertain any thought of perfection. I concentrate on being solid, letting Eriksson lose, and he does. He sends me sailing into the second round. Then, after nearly choking, I beat Guy Forget from France. Then I take out Wayne Freire from South Africa in straight sets. Up next is Chang. I wake the morning of the match with ferocious diarrhea. By match time, I'm weak, depleted, and babbling like peaches. Gil makes me drink an extra dose of Gil water. This batch has a thickness, a density, like oil. I force it down, nearly puking several times. As I do, Gil whispers, "Thank you for trusting me." Then I walk into a classic Chang buzzsaw. He's that rare phenomenon, an opponent who wants to win exactly as much as I do, no more, no less. We both know from the opening serve that it's going down to the wire, photo finish, no other way to settle it. But in the fifth set, thinking we're destined for a tiebreak, I catch a rhythm and break him early. I'm making crazy shots, and I feel him losing traction. It's almost not fair, after such a back-and-forth fight, the way I'm sneaking away with this match. I should be having more trouble with him in the final minutes, but it's sinfully easy. At his news conference, Chang tells reporters about a different match than the one I just played. He says he could have played another 2 sets. Andre got lucky, he says. Furthermore, Chang expresses a great deal of pride that he exposed holes in my game, and he predicts other players in the tournament will thank him. He says I'm vulnerable now. I'm toast. Next, I face Mooster. I make good my vow that I will never lose to him again. It takes every ounce of self-control not to rub his head at the net. I'm in the semis. I'm due to play Martin on Saturday. Friday afternoon, Gil and I are eating lunch at P.J. Clark's. We order the same thing we always order at P.J. Clark's, cheeseburgers on toasted English muffins. We're sitting in the section of our favorite waitress, the one we always agree has a story to tell, if only someone were brave enough to ask her. While we're waiting for the food, we riffle through a stack of New York newspapers. I see Lupica's column is about me. I shouldn't read it, but I do. He writes that the U.S. Open is mine to lose, but you can count on the fact that I will find a way to lose it. Agassi, Lupica writes, simply isn't a champion. I close the paper and feel as if the walls are closing in, as if my vision is narrowing to a pinprick. Lupica sounds so sure, as if he's seen the future. What if he's right? What if this is it, my moment of truth, and I'm revealed to be a fraud? If it doesn't happen now, when will I have another chance to win the U.S. Open? So many things have to fall your way. Finals don't grow on trees. What if I never win this tournament? What if I always look back on this moment with regret? What if hiring Brad was a mistake? What if Brooke is the wrong girl for me? What if my team, so carefully assembled, is the wrong team? Gil looks up and sees me turning white. What's wrong? I read him the column. He doesn't move. I'd like to meet that Lupica one day, he says. What if he's right? Control what you can control. Yeah. Control what you can control. Right. Here comes our food. Martin, who just beat me at Wimbledon, is a deadly opponent. He has a nice hold game and a solid break game. He's huge, 6'6", and returns the serve off both wings with precision and conviction. He'll cane a serve that isn't first rate, which puts enormous pressure on an average server like me. With his own serve, he's uncannily accurate. If he misses, it's only by a bee's dick. He hits the line, and he hasn't the vaguest interest in hitting the inside half of the line. He wants to hit that outside half. For some reason, I'm better against big servers who miss by a lot. I like to cheat forward, guess which way the serve is coming, and with players like Martin, I tend to guess wrong more often, thus leaving myself less lateral coverage. He's a nasty matchup for a player with tendencies, and as our semi begins, I like his chances, and Lupica's better than mine. Still, as the first few games unfold, I realize that several things are in my favor. Martin is better on grass than hard court. This is my surface. Also, like me, he's an underachiever. He's a fellow slave to nerves. I understand the man I'm playing, therefore understand him intimately. Simply knowing your enemy is a powerful advantage. Above all, Martin has a tick, a tell. Some players, when serving, look at their opponent. Some look at nothing. Martin looks at a particular spot in the service box. If he stares a long time at that spot, he's serving in the opposite direction. If he merely glances, he's serving right at that spot. You might not notice it at 0-0 or 15 love, but on breakpoint, he stares at that spot with psycho eyes, like the killer in a horror movie, or glances and looks away like a beginner at the poker tables. The match unfolds so easily, however, that I don't need Martin's tell. He seems unsteady, dwarfed by the occasion, whereas I'm playing with uncommon determination. I see him doubt himself, and I can almost hear his doubt, and I sympathize. As I walk off the court, the winner in 4 sets, I think, he's got some maturing to do. Then I catch myself. Did I really just say that about someone else? In the final, I face Michael Stich from Germany. He's a recent Wimbledon champion, and unlike Martin, he's a threat on every surface. He's also a superb athlete with an unreal wingspan. He has a mighty first serve, heavy and fast, and when it's on, which it usually is, he can serve you into next week. He's so accurate, you're shocked when he misses, and you have to overcome your shock to stay in the point. Even when he does miss, however, you're not out of the woods, because then he falls back on his safe serve, a knuckleball that leaves you with your jock on the ground. And just to keep you a bit more off balance, Stich is without any patterns or tendencies. You never know if he's going to serve and volley or stay back at the baseline. Hoping to seize control, dictate the terms, I come fast out of the blocks, hitting the ball clean, crisp, pretending to feel no fear. I like the sound the ball makes off my racket. I like the sound of the crowd, their oohs and ahs. Stich, meanwhile, comes out skittish. When you lose the first set as quickly as he does, 6-1, your instinct is to panic. I can see it in his body language that he's succumbing to that instinct. He pulls himself together in the second set, however, and gives me a two-fisted battle. I win 7-6, but feel lucky. I know it could have gone either way. In the third set, we both raise the stakes. I feel the finish line pulling, but now he's mentally committed to this fight. There have been times in the past when he's given up against me, when he's taken unnecessary risks because he hasn't believed in himself. Not this time. He's playing smart, proving to me that I'm going to have to rip the trophy from him if I really want it. And I do want it. So I will rip it. We have long rallies off my serve until he realizes I'm committed. I'm willing to hit with him all day. I catch sight of him grabbing his side, winded. I start picturing how the trophy will look in the bachelor pad back in Vegas. There are no breaks of serve through the third set until 5-all. Finally, I break him, and now I'm serving for the match. I hear Brad's voice as clearly as if he were standing behind me. Go for his forehand. When in doubt, forehand, forehand. So I hit to Stich's forehand. Again and again, he misses. The outcome feels, to both of us, I think, inevitable. I fall to my knees. My eyes fill with tears. I look to my box, to Perry and Philly and Gil, and especially Brad. You know everything you need to know about people when you see their faces at the moments of your greatest triumph. I've believed in Brad's talent from the beginning, but now, seeing his pure and unrestrained happiness for me, I believe unrestrainedly in him. Reporters tell me I'm the first unseeded player since 1966 to win the U.S. Open. More importantly, the first unseeded finalist ever was Frank Shields, grandfather of the fifth person in my box. Brooke, who's been here for every match, looks every bit as happy as Brad. My new girlfriend, my new coach, my new manager, my surrogate father. At last, the team is firmly, irrevocably in place. Chapter 16. I think you should get rid of that hairpiece, Brooke says, and that ponytail. Shave your hair short, and be done with it. Impossible. I'd feel naked. You'd feel liberated. I'd feel exposed. It's as though she's suggesting I have all my teeth pulled. I tell her to forget it. Then I go away and think about it for a few days. I think about the pain my hair has caused me, the inconvenience of the hair pieces, the hypocrisy and the pretending and the lying. Maybe it isn't crazy after all. Maybe it's the first step towards sanity. I stand before Brooke one morning and say, let's do it. Do what? Cut it off. Let's cut it all off. We schedule the ceremonial shearing for late at night at an hour normally reserved for seances and raves. It's to be in the kitchen of Brooks Brownstone after she returns from the theater. She got the part in Greece. We'll make a party of it, she says. Invite some friends. Perry is there, and despite our breakup, Wendy. Brooke is openly irritated by the presence of Wendy, and vice versa. Perry is baffled by it. I explain to Brooke and Perry that despite our romantic history, Wendy is still a close friend, a lifelong friend. Being shorn is a dramatic step, and I need friends in the room for moral support, just as I needed Gil there when I had my wrist surgery. In fact, it crosses my mind that for this surgery I should also be sedated. We send out for wine. Brooke's hairdresser, Matthew, puts my head over the sink, washes my hair, then pulls it all tight. Andre, are you sure? No. Are you ready? No. Do you want to do this in front of a mirror? No, I don't want to watch. He puts me in a wooden chair, and then, snip, there goes the ponytail. Everyone applauds. He begins cutting the hair on the sides of my head, tight, close to the skull. I think of the mohawk at the Bradenton Mall. I close my eyes, feel my heart pound, as if I'm about to play a final. This was a mistake. Maybe the defining mistake of my life. JP warned me not to do this. JP said whenever he attends one of my matches, he hears people talking about my hair. Women love me for it. Men hate me for it. Now that JP has quit pastoring, devoted himself to music, he's been doing some work in advertising, writing jingles for radio and TV commercials. So he spoke with some authority when he proclaimed, "As far as the corporate world is concerned, Andre Agassi is his hair, and when Andre Agassi's hair is gone, corporate sponsors will be gone." He also suggested pointedly that I reread the Bible story about Samson and Delilah. As Matthew cuts and cuts and cuts, I realize I should have listened to JP. When has JP ever steered me wrong? With clumps of my hair falling to the floor, I feel clumps of me falling away. It takes 11 minutes. Then Matthew whisks away the smock and says, "Ta-da!" I walk to the mirror. I see a person I don't recognize. Before me stands a total stranger. My reflection isn't different. It's simply not me. But really, what the hell have I lost? Maybe I'll have an easier time being this guy. All this time with Brad, trying to fix what's in my head, it never occurred to me to fix what's on my head. I smile at my reflection, run a hand over my scalp. "Hello, nice to meet you." As night turns to morning, as we work our way through several bottles of wine, I feel exhilarated and heavily indebted to Brooke. "You were right," I tell her. "My hairpiece was a shackle, and my natural hair, grown to absurd lengths, dyed 3 different colors, was a weight as well, holding me down. It seems so trivial, hair. But hair has been the crux of my public image and my self-image, and it's been a sham. Now the sham is lying on Brooke's floor in tiny haystacks. I feel well rid of it. I feel true. I feel free. And I play like it. At the 1995 Australian Open, I come out like the Incredible Hulk. I don't drop one set in a take-no-prisoners blitz to the final. This is the first time I played in Australia, and I can't imagine why I've waited so long. I like the surface, the venue, the heat. Having grown up in Vegas, I don't feel the heat the way other players do, and the defining characteristic of the Australian Open is the unholy temperature. Just as cigar and pipe smoke lingers in the memory after playing Roland Garros, the hazy memory of playing in a giant kiln stays with you for weeks after you leave Melbourne. I also enjoy the Australian people, and they apparently enjoy me, even though I'm not me. I'm this new bald guy in a bandana and a goatee and a hoop earring. Newspapers go to town with my new look. Everyone has an opinion. Fans who rooted for me are disoriented. Fans who rooted against me have a new reason to dislike me. I read and hear a remarkable succession of pirate jokes. I never knew there could be so many pirate jokes, but I don't care. I tell myself that everyone is going to have to deal with this pirate, except this pirate, when I hoist that trophy. In the final, I run smack into Pete. I lose the first set in nothing flat. I lose it gutlessly on a double fault. Here we go again. I take time before the second set to collect myself. I glance toward my box. Brad looks frustrated. He's never believed that Pete is the better player. His face says, "You're the better player, Andre. Don't respect him so much." Pete is serving live grenades, one after another, a typical Pete fusillade. But in the middle of the second set, I feel him tiring. His grenades still have the pins in them. He's wearing down physically and emotionally because he's been through hell these last few days. His longtime coach, Tim Gullickson, suffered 2 strokes, and then they discovered a tumor in his brain. Pete is traumatized. As the match turns my way, I feel guilty. I'd be willing to stop, let Pete go into the locker room, get an IV, and come back as that other Pete who likes to kick my ass at slams. I break him twice. He slumps his shoulders, concedes the set. The third set comes down to a jittery tiebreak. I grab a 3-0 lead, and then Pete wins the next 4 points. Suddenly he's up 6-4, serving for the set. I let out a caveman scream, as if I'm in the weight room with Gil, and put everything I've got into a return that nicks the net and stays inside the line. Pete stares at the ball, then me. On the next point, he hits a forehand that sails long. We're deadlocked at 6. A furious rally ends when I shock him by coming to the net and hitting a soft backhand drop volley. It works so well. I do it again. Set Agassi. Momentum, ditto. The fourth set is a foregone conclusion. I keep my foot on the gas and win 6-4. Pete looks resolved. Too much hill to climb. In fact, he's maddeningly unruffled as he comes to the net. It's my second slam in a row, my 3rd overall. Everyone says it's my best slam yet because it's my first victory over Pete in a slam final. But I think 20 years from now, I'll remember it as my first bald slam. The talk turns immediately to my reaching number 1. Pete's been number 1 for 70 weeks, and everyone on my team says I'm destined to kick him off the top of that vaunted mountain. I tell them that tennis has nothing to do with destiny. Destiny has better things to do than count ATP points. Still, I make it my goal to be number 1 because my team wants it. I cloister myself in Gil's gym and train with fury. I tell him about the goal, and he draws up a battle plan. First, he designs a course of study. He sets about collecting a master list of phone numbers and addresses for the world's most acclaimed sports doctors and nutritionists, and reaches out to all of them, turns them into his private consultants. He huddles with experts at the U.S. Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. He flies coast to coast, interviewing the best and brightest, famed researchers on health and wellness, recording every word they tell him in his Da Vinci notebooks. He reads everything from muscle magazines to obscure medical studies and dry reports. He subscribes to the New England Journal of Medicine. In no time, he makes himself a portable university with 1 professor and 1 student. The student body, me. Then he determines my physical limit and pushes me right up to it. He soon has me bench pressing almost twice my weight, 5 to 7 sets of more than 300 pounds. He has me lifting 50-pound dumbbells in excruciating sets of 3-ways, back-to-back-to-back flexes that burn 3 different muscles in my shoulders. Then we work on biceps and triceps. We burn my muscles to ashes. I like when Gil talks about burning muscles, setting them afire. I like being able to put my paramania to constructive use. Next, we concentrate on my midsection, beginning with a special machine Gil designed and built. As with all his machines, he chopped it, cut it, re-welded it. The blueprints in his Da Vinci notebooks are stunning. It's the only machine of its kind in the world, he says, because it allows me to work my abs without engaging my fragile back. We're going to stack heavy on your abs, he says. Work them until they're on fire. And then we're going to do Russian twists. You'll hold a 45-pound iron plate, a big wheel, and rotate left, right, left, right. That will burn down your sides and obliques. Last, we move to Gil's homemade lat machine. Unlike every lat machine in every gym the world over, Gil's doesn't compromise my back or neck. The bar I pull to work my lats is slightly in front of me. I've never awkwardly positioned. While I'm lifting, Gil also feeds me constantly, every 20 minutes. He wants me taking in 4 parts carbs to 1 part protein, and he times my intake to the nanosecond. When you eat, he says, and how you eat, that's the thing. Every time I turn around, he's shoving a bowl of high-protein oatmeal at me, or a bacon sandwich, or a bagel with peanut butter and honey. Finally, my upper body and gut pleading for mercy, we go outside and run up and down the hill behind Gil's house. Gil Hill. Quick bursts of power and speed, up and down, up and down. I run until my mind begs me to stop, and then I run some more, ignoring my mind. Easing into my car at dusk, I often don't know that I'll be able to drive home. Sometimes I don't try. If I don't have the strength to turn the key in the ignition, I go back inside and curl up on one of Gil's benches and fall asleep. After my mini boot camp with Gil, I look as if I've traded in my old body, upgraded to the newest model. Still, there's room for improvement. I could be better about what I eat outside the gym. Gil, however, doesn't crack the whip about my lapses. He certainly doesn't like the way I eat when I'm not with him, Taco Bell, Burger King, but he says I need comfort food now and then. My psyche, he says, is more fragile than my back, and he doesn't want to overstress it. Besides, a man needs 1 or 2 vices. Gil is a paradox, and we both know it. He can lecture me about nutrition while watching me sip a milkshake. He doesn't slap the milkshake from my hand. On the contrary, he might even take a sip. I like people with contradictions, of course. I also like that Gil's not a taskmaster. I've had enough of taskmasters to last me a lifetime. Gil understands me, coddles me, and occasionally, just occasionally, indulges my taste for junk, maybe because he shares it. At Indian Wells, I face Pete again. If I can beat him, I'll be within an inch of the top spot. I'm in peak condition, but we play a sloppy match, filled with unforced errors. Each of us is distracted. Pete is still distressed about his coach. I'm worried about his father, who's having open-heart surgery in a few days. This time, Pete manages to rise above his turmoil, while I let mine consume me. I lose in 3 sets. I race to the UCLA Medical Center and find my father strapped to machines with long tubes. They remind me of the ball machine of my youth. "You can't beat the dragon." My mother hugs me. "He watched you play yesterday," she says. "He watched you lose to Pete." "I'm sorry, Pops." He's on his back, drugged, helpless. His eyelids flutter open. He sees me and gestures with his hand. "Come closer." I lean in. He can't speak. He has a tube in his mouth and down his throat. He mumbles something. "I don't understand, Pops." More gestures. I don't know what he's trying to tell me. Now he's getting angry. If he had the strength, he'd get out of this bed and knock me out. He motions for a pad and pen. "Tell me later, Pops." No, he shakes his head. He must tell me now. The nurses hand him a pad and pen. He scrawls a few words, then makes a brushing gesture, like an artist gently brushing. At last I understand. "Backhand," he's trying to say. "Hit to Pete's backhand. You should have hit more to Pete's backhand. Vork your wallies. Hit harder." I stand and feel an overpowering urge to forgive, because I realize that my father can't help himself, that he never could help himself, any more than he could understand himself. My father is what he is, and always will be, and though he can't help himself, though he can't tell the difference between loving me and loving tennis, it's love all the same. Few of us are granted the grace to know ourselves, and until we do, maybe the best we can do is to be consistent. My father is nothing if not consistent. I put my father's hand at his side, force him to stop gesturing, tell him that I understand. Yes, to the backhand. I'll hit to Pete's backhand next week in Key Biscayne, and I'll beat his ass. Don't worry, Pops. I'll beat him. Now rest. He nods, his hand still flapping against his side. He closes his eyes and falls asleep. The next week I beat Pete in the final of Key Biscayne. After the match, we fly together to New York, where we're due to catch a flight to Europe for the Davis Cup. But first, upon landing, I drag Pete to the Eugene O'Neill Theater and see Brooke as Rizzo in Grease. It's the first time Pete has seen a Broadway show, I think, but it's my 50th time seeing Grease. I can recite every word of We Go Together, a trick I've performed, deadpan, to much laughter on The Late Show with David Letterman. I like Broadway. I find the ethos of the theater familiar. The work of a Broadway actor is physical, strenuous, demanding, and the nightly pressure is intense. The best Broadway actors remind me of athletes. If they don't give their best, they know it, and if they don't know it, the crowd lets them know it. All this is lost on Pete, however. From the opening number, he's yawning, fidgeting, checking his watch. He doesn't like the theater, and he doesn't get actors, since he's never pretended anything in his life. In the quasi-darkness of the footlights, I smile at his discomfort. Somehow forcing him to sit through Grease feels more satisfying than beating him in Key Biscayne. We go together like Rama Lama Lama. In the morning, we catch the Concorde to Paris, then a private plane to Palermo. I'm barely settled into my hotel room when the phone rings. Perry. In my hand, he says, I hold the latest rankings. Hit me with it. You are number 1. I've knocked Pete off the mountaintop. After 82 weeks at number 1, Pete's looking up at me. I'm the 12th tennis player to be number 1 in the 2 decades since they started keeping computer rankings. The next person who phones is a reporter. I tell him that I'm happy about the ranking, that it feels good to be the best that I can be. It's a lie. This isn't at all what I feel. It's what I want to feel. It's what I expected to feel, what I tell myself to feel. But in fact, I feel nothing. Chapter 17. I spend many hours roaming the streets of Palermo, drinking strong black coffee, wondering what the hell is wrong with me. I did it. I'm the number 1 tennis player on earth, and yet I feel empty. If being number 1 feels empty, unsatisfying, what's the point? Why not just retire? I picture myself announcing that I'm done. I choose the words I'll speak at the news conference. Several images then come to mind. Brad, Perry, my father, each disappointed, aghast. Also, I tell myself that retiring won't solve my essential problem. It won't help me figure out what I want to do with my life. I'll be a 25-year-old retiree, which sounds a lot like a 9th grade dropout. No, what I need is a new goal. The problem all this time is that I've had the wrong goals. I never really wanted to be number 1. That was just something others wanted for me. So I'm number 1. So a computer loves me. So what? What I think I've always wanted since I was a boy, and what I want now, is far more difficult, far more substantial. I want to win the French Open. Then I'll have all 4 slams to my credit, the complete set. I'll be only the second man to accomplish such a feat in the Open era, and the first American. I've never cared about computer rankings, and I've never cared about the number of slams I won. Roy Emerson has the most slams, 12, and nobody thinks he's better than Ron Laver. Nobody. My fellow players, along with any tennis expert or historian I respect, agree that Laver was the best, the king, because he won all 4. More, he did it in the same year, twice. Granted, there were only 2 surfaces back then, grass and clay, but still, that's godlike. That's inimitable. I think about the greats from past eras, how they all chased Laver, how they dreamed of winning all 4 slams. They all skipped certain slams because they didn't give a damn about quantity. They cared about versatility. They all feared that they wouldn't be considered truly great if their resumes were incomplete, if 1 or 2 of the game's 4 prizes could elude them. The more I think about winning all 4 slams, the more excited I become. It's a sudden and shocking insight into myself. I realize this is what I've long wanted. I've simply repressed the desire because it didn't seem possible, especially after reaching the final of the French Open 2 years in a row and losing. Also, I've allowed myself to get sidetracked by sports writers and fans who don't understand, who count the number of slams a player won and use that bogus number to gauge his legacy. Winning all 4 is the true holy grail. So, in 1995, in Palermo, I decide that I will chase this grail, full speed ahead. Brooke, meanwhile, never wavers in pursuit of her own personal grail. Her run on Broadway is deemed a great success, and she doesn't feel empty. She feels hungry. She wants more. She looks at the next big thing. Offers are slow to come in, however. I try to help. I tell her that the public doesn't know her. They think they do, but they don't. A problem with which I have some experience. Some people think she's a model. Some think she's an actress. She needs to hone her image. I ask Perry to step in, have a look at Brooke's career. It doesn't take him long to form an opinion and a plan. He says what Brooke needs now is a TV show. Her future, he says, lies in TV. So she immediately begins searching for scripts and pilots in which she can shine. Just before the start of the 1995 French Open, Brooke and I go to Fisher Island for a few days. We both need rest and sleep. I can't get either, though. I can't stop thinking about Paris. I lie in bed at night, taut as a wire, playing matches on the ceiling. I continue to obsess on the plane to Paris, even though Brooke is with me. She's not working just now, so she's able to get away. Our first time in Paris together, she says, kissing me. Yes, I say, stroking her hand. How to tell her that this is not even partially a vacation, that this trip isn't remotely about us. We stay at the Hotel Raphael, just around the corner from the Arc de Triomphe. Brooke likes the creaky old elevator with the iron door that manually closes. I like the small candlelit bar off the lobby. The rooms are small, too, and they have no TVs, which appalls Brad. He can't take it, in fact. He checks out a few minutes after checking in, switching to a more modern hotel. Brooke speaks French, so she's able to show me Paris through a new, wider lens. I feel comfortable exploring the city because there's no fear of getting lost, and she can translate. I tell her about the first time I was here with Philly. I tell her about the Louvre, the painting that freaked us both out. She's fascinated and wants me to take her to see it. Another time, I say. We eat at fancy restaurants, visit out-of-the-way neighborhoods I'd never venture into on my own. Some of it charms me, but most leaves me cold because I'm loath to break my concentration. The owner of one cafe invites us down to his ancient wine cellar, a musty medieval tomb filled with dust-covered bottles. He hands one to Brooke. She peers at the date on the label, 1787. She cradles the bottle like a baby, then holds it up to me, incredulous. I don't get it, I whisper. It's a bottle. It has dust on it. She glares, as if she'd like to break the bottle over my head. Late one night, we go for a walk along the Seine. It's her 30th birthday. We stop near a flight of stone steps leading down to the river, and I present her with a diamond tennis bracelet. She laughs as I put it around her wrist and fiddle with the clasp. We both admire the way it catches the moonlight. Then, just beyond Brooke's shoulder, standing on the stone steps, a drunken Frenchman staggers into view and sends a high, looping arc of urine into the Seine. I don't believe in omens, as a rule, but this seems ominous. I just can't tell if it portends something for the French Open or my relationship with Brooke. At last the tournament begins. I win my first 4 matches without dropping a set. It's evident to reporters and commentators that I'm a different player, stronger and more focused, on a mission. No one sees this more clearly than my fellow players. I've always noticed the way players silently anoint the alpha dog in their midst, the way they single out the one player who's feeling it, who's likeliest to win. At this tournament, for the first time, I'm that player. I feel them all watching me in the locker room. I feel them noting my every move, the little things I do, even studying how I organize my bag. They're quicker to step aside when I walk by, eager to give up the training table. A new degree of respect is directed toward me, and while I try not to take it seriously, I can't help but enjoy it. Better me getting this treatment than someone else. Brooke, however, doesn't seem to notice any difference in me, doesn't treat me any differently. At night I sit in the hotel room, staring out the window at Paris, an eagle on a cliff, but she talks to me of this and that, Greece and Paris, and what so-and-so said about such and such. She doesn't understand the work I did in Gil's gym, the trials and sacrifices and concentration that have led to this new confidence, or the huge task that lies ahead, and she doesn't try to understand. She's more interested in where we're going to eat next, which wine cellar we're going to explore. She takes it for granted that I'm going to win, and she wishes I'd hurry up and do it so we can have fun. It's not selfishness on her part, just a mistaken impression that winning is normal, losing is abnormal. In the quarters, I face Kafelnikov, the Russian who likened me to Jesus. I sneer at him across the net as the match begins. Jesus is about to whip you with a car antenna. I know I can beat Kafelnikov. He knows it too. It's written all over his face. But early in the first set, I lunge for a ball and feel something snap. My hip flexor. I ignore it, pretend it didn't happen, pretend I don't have a hip, but the hip sends lines of pain up and down my leg. I can't bend. I can't move. I ask for the trainer, who gives me 2 aspirin and tells me there's nothing he can do. His eyes are the size of poker chips when he tells me. I lose the first set, then the second. In the third, I rally. I'm up 4-1, the crowd urging me onward. Allez, Agassi! But I grow less mobile with every minute. Kafelnikov, moving well, ties the set, and I feel my limbs go slack. It's another Russian crucifixion. Au revoir, Grail. I walk off the court without collecting my rackets. The real test wasn't supposed to be Kafelnikov. It was supposed to be Mooster, the hair musser who's been dominating on clay. So even if I'd gotten by Kafelnikov, I don't know how hobbled I would have been against Mooster. But I promised Mooster I'd never lose to him again, and I meant it, and I liked my chances. I think no matter who was on the other side of the net, I could have done something great. As I leave Paris, I don't feel defeated. I feel cheated. This was it. I just know. My last chance. Never again will I be in Paris feeling so strong, so young. Never again will I inspire such fear in the locker room. My golden opportunity to win all 4 slams is gone. Brooke has already flown home ahead of me, so it's just Gil and me on the flight. Gil talking softly about how we're going to treat the flexor, how we're going to adjust after what we've just put ourselves through, and get ready for what's coming, grass. We spend a week in Vegas doing nothing but watching movies and waiting for my hip to mend. An MRI tells us the damage isn't permanent. Cold comfort. We fly to England. I'm the number 1 seed at the 1995 Wimbledon because I'm still ranked number 1 in the world. Fans greet me with an enthusiasm and glee that clash sharply with my mood. Nike has been here ahead of time, priming the pump, handing out Agassi kits, adhesive sideburns, Fu Manchu mustaches, and bandanas. This is my new look. I've morphed from pirate to bandit. It's surreal, as always, to see guys trying to look like me, and as always, it's even a bit more surreal to see girls trying. Girls with Fu Manchus and sideburns. It almost makes me crack a smile. Almost. It rains every day, but still the fans mob Wimbledon. They brave the rain, the cold. They line up all the way down Church Road for the love of tennis. I want to go out there and stand with them, question them, find out what makes them love it so much. I wonder what it would be like to feel such passion for the game. I wonder if the fake Fu Manchus stay in the rain or if they disintegrate like my old hair pieces. I win my first 2 matches easily, and then beat Wheaton in 4 sets. The big news of that day, however, is Tarango, who lost, then fought with an umpire before leaving the court. Then Tarango's wife slapped the umpire, one of the great scandals in Wimbledon history. Instead of facing Tarango, therefore, I'll face Alexander Mons from Germany. Reporters asked me which opponent I would have preferred, and I badly want to tell the story of Tarango cheating when I was 8. I don't, however. I don't want to get in a public spat with Tarango, and I fear making an enemy of his wife. I say the diplomatic thing that it doesn't matter whom I play, even though Tarango was the more dangerous threat. I beat Mons in 3 easy sets. In the semis, I face Becker. I've beaten him the last 8 times we've played. Pete has already moved on to the final, and he's awaiting the winner of Agassi Becker, which is to say he's awaiting me, because every slam final is beginning to feel like a standing date between me and Pete. I take the first set from Becker, no problem. In the second set, I jump out to a 4-1 lead. Here I come, Pete. Get ready, Pete. Then, just like that, Becker begins to play a rougher, brawnier game. He wins several scrappy points. After chipping at my confidence with a tiny nail, he now pulls out a sledgehammer. He plays from the baseline, an unusual tactic for him, and flat out muscles me. He breaks me, and though I'm still up 4-2, I feel something snap. Not my hip, my mind. I'm suddenly unable to control my thoughts. I'm thinking of Pete waiting. I'm thinking of my sister Rita, whose husband Pancho just lost a long bout with stomach cancer. I'm thinking of Becker, still working with Nick, who, tanner than ever, the color of prime ribs, sits above us in Becker's box. I wonder if Nick has told Becker my secrets, for instance, the way I've figured out Becker's serve. Just before he tosses the ball, Becker sticks out his tongue and it points like a tiny red arrow to where he's aiming. I'm thinking of Brooke, who's been shopping at Harrods this week with Pete's girlfriend, a law student named Delana Mulcahy. All these thoughts go crashing through my mind, making me feel scattered, fractured, and this allows Becker to capture the momentum. He never gives it back. He wins in 4 sets. The loss is one of the most devastating of my life. Afterward, I don't say a word to anyone. Gil, Brad, Brooke, I don't speak to them because I can't. I am broken, gut shot. Brooke and I are due to fly away on a vacation. We've been planning it for weeks. We wanted someplace remote with no phones, no other people, so we booked Indigo Island, 150 miles from Nassau. After the Wimbledon debacle, I want to cancel, but Brooke reminds me we've secured the entire island. Our deposit is non-refundable. Besides, it's supposed to be paradise, she says. It will be good for us. I frown. Just as I feared, from the moment we arrive, paradise feels like Supermax. On the entire island there is one house, and it's not big enough for the 3 of us, Brooke, me, and my black mood. Brooke lies in the sun and waits for me to speak. She's not frightened by my silence, but she doesn't understand it either. In her world, everyone pretends, whereas in mine, some things can't be pretended away. After 2 days of silence, I thank her for being so patient and tell her I'm back. I'm going to go for a jog on the beach, I say. I start at a leisurely pace, then find myself running 100-meter sprints. I'm already thinking about getting in shape, reloading for the hard courts of summer. I go to Washington, D.C., the Legg Mason Tennis Classic. The weather is obscenely hot. Brad and I try to get acclimated to the heat by practicing in the middle of the afternoon. When we're done, fans gather and shout questions. Few of the other players hang around talking to fans, but I do. I like it. For me, fans are always preferable to reporters. After we've signed the last autograph and answered the last question, Brad says he needs a beer. He looks sly. Something's up. I take him to the Tombs, the place Perry and I frequented when I visited him during his Georgetown days. The bar has a miniature street door, then a narrow staircase down into damp darkness, and a smell of unclean bathrooms. It also has one of those open kitchens so you can watch the cooks, and while that's a good thing at some places, it's not a plus at the Tombs. We find a booth and order drinks. Brad is put out because they don't have Bud Ice. He settles for Bud. I feel tremendous after the workout, relaxed, fit. I haven't thought of Becker in almost 20 minutes. Brad puts a stop to that. From the inside pocket of his black cashmere pullover, he removes a wad of papers, and in an agitated way he drops them on the table. "Becker," he says. "What?" "This is what he said after beating you at Wimbledon." "What do I care?" "He's talking shit." "What kind of shit?" He reads. Becker used his post-match news conference to complain that Wimbledon promotes me over other players. He complained that Wimbledon officials unfairly bend over backward to schedule my matches on center court. He complained that all major tournaments kiss my ass. Then he gets personal. He called me an elitist. He said that I don't associate with other players. He said I'm not well liked on the tour. He said I'm not open, and if I were open, maybe other players wouldn't fear me so much. In short, he issued a declaration of war. Brad has never cared for Becker. Brad has always called him BB Socrates because he thinks Becker tries to come off as an intellectual when he's just an overgrown farm boy. But Brad is now so incensed that he can't sit still in our booth at the Tombs. "Andre," he says, "it is so fucking on. Mark my words, we're going to run into this motherfucker again. We're going to run into him at the U.S. Open. And until then, we're going to prepare, train, plot revenge." I read Becker's quotes again. I can't believe it. I knew the guy didn't like me, but this... I look down and find that I'm clenching and unclenching my fist. Brad says, "Do you hear? I want you to take this fucker out. Consider it done." We click our beer bottles, swear an oath. What's more, I tell myself, after Becker, I'm going to keep on winning. I'm simply not going to lose anymore. At least not until the frost is on the pumpkin. I'm sick of losing, sick of being disappointed, sick and tired of guys disrespecting my game as much as I do. And so the summer of 1995 becomes the summer of revenge. Running on pure animosity, I steamroll through the D.C. tournament. In the final, I face Edberg. I'm the better player, but it's well over 100 degrees, and such extreme heat is a great equalizer. In this heat, all men are the same. At the start of our match, I can't think. I can't find a groove. Luckily, Edberg can't either. I win the first set. He wins the second. And the third set, I go up 5-2. The fans cheer, those fans who aren't suffering heat stroke. The match is stopped several times so that someone in the stands can receive medical attention. I'm serving for the match. At least that's what they tell me. I'm also hallucinating. I don't know what game I'm playing. Is this Nerf ping pong? I'm supposed to hit this fuzzy yellow ball back and forth? To whom? My teeth are chattering. I see 3 balls come across the net, and I hit the middle one. My only hope is that Edberg is hallucinating too. Maybe he'll black out before I do, and I'll win on a forfeit. I wait, watch him closely, but then I take a turn for the worse. My stomach clenches. He breaks me. Now he's serving. I call time, step away, and toss my breakfast onto a decorative planter at the back of the court. When I resume my position, Edberg has no trouble holding serve. I'm serving again for the match. We rally weakly, each of us hitting timid shots in the center of the court, like 10-year-old girls playing badminton. He breaks me again. 5 all. I drop my racket and stumble off the court. There's an unwritten rule, or maybe it's actually written, that if you leave the court with your racket, you forfeit. So I drop my racket to let people know I'm coming back. In my delirious state, I still care about the rules of tennis, but I also care about the rules of physics. What goes down in this heat must come up, and soon. I vomit several times on my way to the locker room. I run to the toilet and bring up a meal I had days ago, maybe years ago. I feel as if I'm going into shock. At last, the locker room's air conditioning, plus the total purge of my stomach, starts to revive me. The referee knocks at the door. Andre, you're going to lose points if you don't return to the court right now. Stomach empty, head spinning, I return. I break Edberg. I have no idea how. Then I hold on for the match. I stumble to the net where Edberg is leaning, close to fainting. We both have a hard time staying on court for the ceremony. When they hand me the trophy, I think about vomiting into it. They hand me a microphone to say a few words, and I think about vomiting on it too. I apologize for my behavior, especially to the people sitting by the ill-used flower pot. I want to publicly suggest that officials consider relocating this tournament to Iceland, but I need to vomit again. I drop the microphone and run. Brooke asks why I didn't just quit. Because it's the summer of revenge. After the match, Tarango publicly objects to my behavior. He demands an explanation for why I left the court. He says that he was waiting to get on to play his doubles match, and I delayed him. He's annoyed. I'm delighted. I want to get back to the court, find the flower pot, have it gift-wrapped and sent to Tarango with a note that says, "Call this out, cheater." I never forget. Something Becker is about to learn the hard way. From D.C., I go to Montreal, where it's blessedly cooler. I beat Pete in the final. 3 hard-fought sets. Beating Pete always feels good, but this time it barely registers. I want Becker. I beat Chang in the final at Cincinnati, praise God, and then go to New Haven, back into the blast furnace of the Northeast summer. I reach the final and face Krychek. He's big, 6'5" at least, and burly, and yet surprisingly light on his feet. 2 strides and he's there at the net, snarling, ready to snack on your heart. Also, his serve is monstrous. I don't want to spend 3 hours coping with that serve. After winning 3 tournaments in quick succession, I have very little left. Brad, however, won't tolerate such talk. "You're in training, remember? The grudge match to end all grudge matches? Let it fly," he says. So I let it fly. The problem is Krychek does too. He beats me in the first set 6-3. In the second set, he has match point twice, but I don't yield. I tie the set, win the tie break, and win the third set going away. It's my 20th straight match victory, my 4th straight tournament victory. I've won 63 of 70 matches this year, 44 of 46 on hard court. Reporters ask if I feel invincible, and I say no. They think I'm being modest, but I'm telling the truth. It's how I feel. It's the only way I can allow myself to feel the summer of revenge. Pride is bad, stress is good. I don't want to feel confident. I want to feel rage. Endless, all-consuming rage. All the talk on the tour is about my rivalry with Pete, largely because of a new Nike ad campaign, including a popular TV commercial in which we hop out of a cab in the middle of San Francisco, set up a net, and go at it. The New York Times Sunday magazine publishes a long profile about the rivalry and the chasm between our personalities. It describes Pete's absorption in tennis, his love of the game. I wonder what the writer would have made of the chasm if he'd known my true feelings about tennis. If only I'd told him. I set the story aside. I pick it up again. I don't want to read it. I must. It feels odd, unnerving, because Pete isn't uppermost in my thoughts right now. Day and night I think of Becker, only Becker, and yet skimming the article, I wince when Pete is asked what he likes about me. He can't think of anything. Finally, he says, "I like the way he travels." At last, August comes. Gil and Brad and I drive to New York for the 1995 U.S. Open. On our first morning at Louis Armstrong Stadium, I see Brad in the locker room, holding the draw in his hands. "It's good," he says, smiling. "Oh, it's good. AG. All good." I'm on Becker's side of the draw. If everything goes according to Brad's plan, I'll face Becker in the semis. Then Pete. I think, if only when we're born we could look over our draw in life, project our path to the final. In the early rounds, I'm on autopilot. I know what I want. I see what I want just ahead, and opponents are mere road cones. Edberg, Alex Coretta, Peter Korda. I need to get past them to reach my target, so I do. After each win, Brad isn't his typical ebullient self. He doesn't smile. He doesn't celebrate. He's preoccupied by Becker. He's monitoring Becker's progress, charting his matches. He wants Becker to win every match, every point. As I walk off the court with another victory, Brad says dryly, "Another good day." "Thanks. Yeah, felt good." "No, I mean B.B. Socrates. He won." Pete handles his business. He reaches the final on his side of the draw, and now awaits the winner of Agassi Becker. It's Wimbledon all over again, part 2, but this time I'm not thinking of Pete. I'm not looking ahead. I've been gunning for Becker, and now the moment is here, and my concentration is so intense it frightens me. A friend asks if I don't feel even the slightest impulse, when it's personal with an opponent, to drop the racket and go for his throat. When it's a grudge match, when there's bad blood, wouldn't I rather settle it with a few rounds of old-fashioned boxing? I tell my friend that tennis is boxing. Every tennis player, sooner or later, compares himself to a boxer, because tennis is non-contact pugilism. It's violent, mano a mano, and the choice is as brutally simple as it is in any ring. Kill or be killed. Beat or take your beat down. Tennis beatings are just deeper below the skin. They remind me of the old Vegas loan shark method of beating someone with a bag of oranges because it leaves no outer bruises. And yet, having said that, I'm only human. So before we take the court, as Becker and I stand in the tunnel, I tell the security guard, "James, keep us apart. I don't want this fucking German in my sight. Trust me, James, you don't want me to see him." Becker feels the same way. He knows what he said, and he knows I've read it 50 times and memorized it. He knows I've been stewing in his remarks all summer, and he knows I want blood. He does too. He's never liked me, and for him, this also has been the summer of revenge. We walk onto the court, avoiding eye contact, refusing to acknowledge the crowd, focused on our gear, our tennis bags, and the nasty job at hand. From the opening bell, it's what I thought it would be. We're sneering, snorting, cursing in 2 different languages. I win the first set, 7-6. Becker looks infuriatingly unfazed. Why shouldn't he? This is how our match at Wimbledon started. He doesn't worry about falling behind. He's proved that he can take my best punch and come back. I win the second set, 7-6. Now he starts to squirm, to look for an edge. He tries to play with my mind. He's seen me lose my cool before, so he does what he thinks will make me lose my cool again. The most emasculating thing one tennis player can do to another. He blows kisses at my box, at Brooke. It works. I'm so angry that I momentarily lose focus. In the third set, with me ahead 4-2, Becker dives for a ball that he has no business reaching. He gets there, wins the point, then breaks me, then wins the set. The crowd is now wild. They seem to have figured it out, that this is personal, that these 2 guys don't like each other, that we're settling old scores. They appreciate the drama, and they want it to go the distance, and now it really feels like Wimbledon all over again. Becker feeds on their energy. He blows more kisses to Brooke, smiling wolfishly. It worked once. Why not do it again? I look at Brad next to Brooke, and he gives me a steely glare, the vintage Brad look that says, "Come on, let's go." The fourth set is nip and tuck. We're each holding serve, looking for an opening to break. I glance at the clock. 9:30. No one here is going home. Lock the doors. Send out for sandwiches. We're not leaving until this fucking thing is settled. The intensity is palpable. I've never wanted a match so much. I never wanted anything so much. I hold serve to go up 6-5, and now Becker's serving to stay in the match. He sticks his tongue to my right, serves right. I guess right and cold cock it. Winner. I crush his next 2 serves. Now he's serving at love 40, triple match point. Perry is barking at him. Brooke is raining blood-curdling screams down on him. Becker is smiling, waving at them both as if he's Miss America. He misfires his first serve. I know he's going to get aggressive with his second. He's a champion. He's going to bring it like a champion. Also, his tongue is in the middle of his mouth. Sure enough, he brings a faster-paced second serve straight up the gut. Normally, you have to worry about the high bounce and kick, so you move in, try to catch it early before it bounces above your shoulder. But I gamble, hold my ground, and the gamble pays off. Here is the ball in my wheelhouse. I slide my hips out of the way, put myself in place to hit the Coley of a lifetime. The serve is a click faster than I anticipated, but I adjust. I'm on my toes, feeling like Wyatt Earp and Spider-Man and Spartacus. I swing. Every hair in my body is standing up. As the ball leaves my racket, a sound leaves my mouth that's pure animal. I know that I won't ever make this sound again, and I won't ever hit a tennis ball any harder or any more perfect. Hitting a ball dead perfect, the only piece. As it lands on Becker's side of the court, the sound is still coming from me. Ah! The ball blazes past Becker. Match Agassi. Becker walks to the net. Let him stand there. The fans are on their feet, swaying, ecstatic. I'm gazing at Brooke and Gill and Perry and Brad, especially Brad. Come on! I keep gazing. Becker is still at the net. I don't care. I leave him standing there like a Jehovah's Witness on my doorstep. Finally, I strip off my wristbands and go to the net and stick my hand in his general vicinity without looking. He gives my hand a shake, and I snatch it away. A TV reporter rushes onto the court and asks me a few questions. I answer without thinking. Then I look into the camera with a smile and say, "Pete, I'm coming." I ran into the tunnel, into the training room. Gil is there, worried. He knows what that victory must have cost me physically. "I'm in bad shape, Gil. Lie down, man." My head is ringing. I'm sopping wet. It's 10 at night, and I've got to play in the final in less than 18 hours. Between now and tomorrow, I've got to come down from this near-psychotic state, get home, eat a good hot meal, drink a gallon of Gil water until I piss a kidney, and then get some sleep. Gil drives me back to Brooks Brownstone. We eat dinner, and then I sit in the shower for an hour. It's one of those showers that makes you think you should write a check to several environmental groups and maybe plant a tree. At 2 a.m, I lie down beside Brooke and black out. I open my eyes 5 hours later, no idea where I am. I sit up and let out a scream, a compacted version of my final scream against Becker. I can't move. At first, I think it's a stomach cramp. Then I realize it's much more serious. I roll off the bed onto my hands and knees. I know what this is. I've had this before. Torn cartilage between the ribs. I have a pretty good idea which shot tore it, but this tear must be particularly severe because I can't expand my rib cage. I can barely breathe. I remember vaguely that it takes 3 weeks for this injury to heal. But I've got 9 hours before I face Pete. It's 7 a.m, the match is at 4. I call for Brooke. She must be out. I'm lying on my side, saying aloud, "This can't be happening. Please don't let this be happening." I close my eyes and pray that I'll be able to walk onto the court. Even asking for this match seems ridiculous because I can't stand. Hard as I try, I can't get to my feet. God, please, I can't not show up for the final of the U.S. Open. I crawl to the phone and dial Gil. "Gilly, I can't stand up. I literally can't stand up." "I'll be right over." By the time he arrives, I'm standing but still having trouble breathing. I tell him what I think it must be, and he concurs. He watches me drink a cup of coffee, then says, "It's time. We need to go." We look at the clock and both do the only thing we can do in such a moment. We laugh. Gil drives me to the stadium. On the practice court, I hit one ball and the ribs grab me. I hit another. I yell in pain. I hit a third. It still hurts, but I can put some mustard on it. I can breathe. "How do you feel?" "Better. I'm about 38%. We stare at each other. Maybe that will be enough. But Pete is pushing 100%. He comes out prepared, braced for a dose of what he saw me give Becker. I lose the first set, 6-4. I lose the second set, 6-3. I win the third set, however. I'm learning what I can get away with. I'm finding shortcuts, compromises, back doors. I see a few chances to turn this thing into a miracle. I just can't exploit them. I lose the fourth set 7-5. Reporters ask how it feels to win 26 matches in a row, to win all summer long, only to run into the giant net that is Pete. I think, how do you think it feels? I say, next summer I'm going to lose a little bit. I'm 26-1, and I'd give all those wins for this one. On the drive back to the brownstone, I'm holding my ribs, staring out the window, reliving every shot of the summer of revenge. All that work and anger and winning and training and hoping and sweating, and it leads to the same empty, disappointed feeling. No matter how much you win, if you're not the last one to win, you're a loser. And in the end, I always lose because there is always Pete. As always, Pete. Brooke steers clear. She gives me kind looks and sympathetic frowns, but it doesn't feel real because she doesn't understand. She's waiting for me to feel better, for this to pass, for things to get back to normal. Losing is abnormal. Brooke has told me that she has a ritual when I lose, a way of killing time until normalcy is restored. While I'm mutely grieving, she goes through her closets and pulls out everything she hasn't worn in months. She folds sweaters and t-shirts, reorganizes socks and stockings and shoes into drawers and boxes. The night I lose to Pete, I peer into Brooke's closet, neat as a pin. In our brief relationship, she's had lots of time to kill. Chapter 18. While facing Wielander in Davis Cup, I alter my movements to protect my torn rib cartilage. But when you protect one thing, you often damage another. I hit an odd forehand and feel a chest muscle pull. It stays warm during the match, but when I wake the next morning, I can't move. The doctor shut me down for weeks. Brad is suicidal. A layoff would cost you the number one rank, he says. I couldn't care less. Pete is number one, no matter what some computer says. Pete won 2 slams this year, and he won our showdown in New York. Besides, I still don't give a rat's ass about being number one. Would have been nice, wasn't my goal. Then again, beating Pete wasn't my goal either, but losing to him has caused me to plummet into bottomless gloom. I've always had trouble shaking off hard losses, but this loss to Pete is different. This is the ultimate loss, the uber loss, the alpha omega loss that eclipses all others. Previous losses to Pete, the loss to Courier, the loss to Gomez, they were flesh wounds compared to this, which feels like a spear through the heart. Every day this loss feels new. Every day I tell myself to stop thinking about it, and every day I can't. The only respite is fantasizing about retirement. Brooke, meanwhile, is working nonstop. Her acting career is taking off. As per Perry's advice, she's bought a house in Los Angeles and she's been pursuing roles on TV. Now she's landed a plum, a small guest spot in an episode of the sitcom Friends. It's the number one show in the world, she says. Number one. I wince. That phrase again. She doesn't notice. The producers of Friends have asked Brooke to play a stalker. I cringe, thinking of the nightmare she's endured with stalkers and overly enthusiastic fans. But Brooke thinks the experience with so many stalkers will be good preparation for this part. She says she understands the stalker mindset. Plus, Andre, it's Friends, the number one show on TV. It might lead to a reoccurring role on the show. And besides the fact that Friends is number one, my episode is going to air right after the Super Bowl. 50 million people will see it. This is my U.S. Open. A tennis analogy, the surest way to make me disconnect from her desire. But I pretend to be pleased and say the right things. If you're happy, I say, I'm happy. She believes me, or acts as if she does, which often feels like the same thing. We agree that Perry and I will go with her to Hollywood and watch her shoot the episode. We'll be in her box, as she's always been in mine. Won't that be fun, she says? No, I think. Yes, I say. Fun. I don't want to go, but I also don't want to lie around the house anymore, talking to myself. Sore chest, wounded ego, even I don't want to be alone with me. In the days leading up to the taping of Friends, we barricade ourselves in Brooke's house in Los Angeles. She has a fellow actor come over every day to help run lines. I watch them. Brooke is keyed up, feeling pressure, training hard, a process that's familiar to me. I'm proud of her. I tell her she's going to be a star. Good things are about to happen. We arrive at the studio late in the afternoon. A half-dozen actors greet us warmly. They're the cast, I assume, the eponymous Friends, but for all I know, that could be 6 unemployed actors from West Covina. I've never seen the show. Brooke hugs them, flushes, stammers, even though she's already spent days rehearsing with them. I've never seen her this starstruck. I introduced her to Barbra Streisand, and she didn't react this way. I stay a few steps behind Brooke in the shadows. I don't want to take any of her limelight, and besides, I'm not feeling sociable. But the actors are tennis fans, and they keep drawing me into the conversation. They ask about my injury, congratulate me on a successful year. The year feels anything but successful, but I thank them as politely as I can and step back again. They persist. They ask about the U.S. Open, the rivalry with Pete. What's that like? You guys are great for tennis. Yes, well, are you guys friends? Friends? Did they really just ask me that? Are they asking because they're the friends? I never thought of it before, but yes, I guess Pete and I are friends. I turn to Perry for support, but he's like Brooke, weirdly starstruck. In fact, he's going a little native. He's talking showbiz with the actors, dropping names, playing the insider. Mercifully, Brooke is summoned to her trailer. Perry and I follow and sit with her while a team of people blows out and combs her hair, and another team tends to her makeup and wardrobe. I watch Brooke as she watches herself in the mirror. She's so happy, so hyper, like a girl primping for her Sweet 16 party, and I'm so out of place. I feel myself shutting down. I say the appropriate things. I smile and mouth encouragements, but on the inside, I feel something like a valve shut. I wonder if what I feel is the same thing Brooke feels when I'm tense before a tournament, or grieving a loss afterward. My feigned interest, my canned answers, my fundamental lack of interest, is this what I reduce her to half the time? We walk to the set, a purple apartment with second-hand furniture. We stand around, killing time, while large men fuss with lights and the director confers with writers. Someone is telling jokes, trying to warm up the crowd. I find a seat in the front row, close to a fake door Brooke is supposed to enter. The crowd is buzzing, as is the crew. There's a sense of building anticipation. I can't stop yawning. I feel like Pete, forced to watch Grease. I wonder why I have so much respect for Broadway and such disdain for this. Someone yells, "Quiet!" Someone else yells, "Action!" Brooke steps forward and knocks at the fake door. It swings open, and Brooke delivers her first line. The audience laughs and cheers. The director yells, "Cut!" A woman several rows behind me yells, "You're doing great, Brooke!" The director praises Brooke. She listens to the praise, nodding. "Thank you," she says, "but I can do it better." She wants to do it again. She wants another chance. "Okay," the director says. While they set up for the next take, Perry gives Brooke pointers. He doesn't know the first thing about acting, but Brooke is feeling so insecure that she'd take notes from anyone right now. She listens and nods. They're standing just below me, and he's lecturing her as if he's the head of the actor's studio. "Places, please." Brooke thanks Perry and runs to the door. "Quiet, everybody." Brooke closes her eyes. "Action." She knocks at the fake door, does the scene exactly the same way. "Cut." "Fantastic," the director tells Brooke. She hurries over to me and asks what I thought. "Terrific," I say, and I'm not lying. She was. Even if TV annoys me, even if the atmosphere and the fakery turn me off, I respect hard work. I admire her dedication. She's giving her all. I kiss her and tell her I'm proud. "Are you finished?" "No, I have another scene." "Oh." We move to a different set, a restaurant. Brooke's stalker character is on a date with the object of her affection, Joey. She's seated at a table across from the actor playing Joey. Another interminable wait. More notes from Perry. At last the director yells, "Action!" The player playing Joey seems like a nice enough guy. When the scene starts, however, I realize I'm going to have to kick his ass. Apparently the script calls for Brooke to grab Joey's hand and lick it. But she takes it one step further, devouring his hand like an ice cream cone. Cut! That was great, the director says, but let's try it once more. Brooke is laughing, Joey is laughing, wiping his hand on a napkin. I'm staring, wide-eyed. Brooke didn't mention anything about hand-licking. She knew what my reaction would be. This is not my life. This cannot be my life. I'm not really here. I'm not really sitting with 200 people and watching my girlfriend lick another man's hand. I look up at the ceiling, directly into the lights. They're going to do it again. Quiet, please. Action. Brooke takes Joey's hand and puts it in her mouth, up to the knuckles. This time, she rolls her eyes back and runs her tongue along. I jump out of my seat, run downstairs, push through a side door. It's dark. How did it get dark so fast? Right outside the door is my rented Lincoln. Behind me come Perry and Brooke. Perry's mystified. Brooke's frantic. She grabs my arm and asks, "Where are you going? You can't be going." Perry says, "What's wrong? What's the matter?" You know. You both know. Brooke is begging me to stay. So is Perry. I tell them there's no chance. I don't want to watch her lick that man's hand. "Don't do this," Brooke says. Me? Me? I'm not doing anything. Go back and enjoy yourselves. Break a leg. Have some more hand. I'm out of here. I'm driving fast on the freeway, weaving in and out of traffic. I'm not sure where I'm going, except that I'm not going back to Brooks. Fuck that. Suddenly, I realize I'm going all the way to Vegas, and I'm not stopping until I get there, and I feel great about this decision. I open up the engine and roar past the city limits on into the desert, nothing between me and my bed but a stretch of wasteland and a swirl of stars. When the radio turns to static, I try to tune in my emotions. I felt jealous, yes, but also dislocated, out of touch with myself. Like Brooke, I was playing a part, the role of the dopey boyfriend, and I thought I was pulling it off. But when the hand-licking started, I couldn't stay in character any longer. Of course, I've watched Brooke kiss men on stage before. I've also had the experience of meeting a perv who couldn't wait to tell me about making out with my girlfriend on a movie set when she was 15. This is different. This is over the line. I don't pretend to know where the line is, but hand-licking is definitely over it. I pull up to the bachelor pad at 2 a.m. The driving has tired me, taking the edge off my anger. I'm still angry, but also contrite. I dial Brooke. "I'm sorry, I needed to get out of there." She says everyone asked where I was. She says I humiliated her, jeopardized her big break. She says everyone told her how good she was, but she couldn't enjoy a minute of her success because the only person she wanted to share it with was gone. "You were a major distraction," she says, raising her voice. "I had to block you out of my mind so that I could concentrate on my lines, which made everything harder. If I ever did anything like that to you at a match, you'd be incensed." I couldn't watch you lick that guy's hand. "I was acting, Andre. Acting. Did you forget that I'm an actor? That acting is what I do for a living? That it's all pretend? Make-believe?" If only I could forget. I start to defend myself, but Brooke says she doesn't want to hear it. She hangs up. I stand in the middle of my living room and feel the floor shaking. I briefly consider the possibility that Vegas is being struck by an earthquake. I don't know what to do, where to stand. I walk on the shelf that holds my tennis trophies and pick one up. I hurl it through the living room, through the kitchen. It breaks in several pieces. I pick up another and hurl it against the wall. One by one, I do this with all my trophies. Davis Cup, smash. U.S. Open, smash. Wimbledon, smash, smash. I pull the rackets out of my tennis bag and try to smash the glass coffee table, but only the rackets shatter. I pick up the broken trophies and smash them against the walls and then against other things in the house. When the trophies can't be smashed anymore, I fling myself on the couch, which is covered with plaster from the gouged walls. Hours later, I open my eyes. I survey the damage as if someone else is responsible. And it's true. It was someone else. The someone who does half the shit I do. My phone rings. Brooke. I apologize again, tell her about breaking my trophies. Her tone softens. She's concerned. She hates that I was so upset, that I got jealous, that I'm in pain. I tell her I love her. 1 month later, I'm in Stuttgart for the start of the indoor season. If I were to list all the places in the world where I don't want to be, all the continents and countries, the cities and towns, the villages and hamlets and burgs, Stuttgart would be at the top of my list. If I live to be 1,000 years old, I think, nothing good is ever going to happen to me in Stuttgart. Nothing against Stuttgart. I just don't want to be here now, playing tennis. Nevertheless, here I am, and it's an important match. If I win, I will consolidate my number 1 ranking, which Brad badly wants. I'm playing Molly Washington, whom I know well. I played him all through juniors. Good athlete, covers the court like a tarp, always makes me beat him. His legs are pure bronze, so I can't attack them. I can't tire him out like a typical opponent. I have to outthink him, and so I do. I'm up a set, rolling along, when suddenly I feel as if I've stepped in a mousetrap. I look down. The bottom of my shoe has fallen off, peeled away. I didn't bring an extra pair of tennis shoes. I halt the match, tell officials that I need new shoes. An announcement is made over the loudspeaker in urgent staccato German. Can someone lend a shoe to Mr. Agassi, size 10.5? It has to be a Nike, I add, because of my contract. A man in the upper bleachers rises and waves his shoe. He would be happy, he says, to loan me his shoe. Brad goes up to the stands and retrieves it. Though the man is a size 9, I force his shoe on my foot, like some half-wit Cinderella, and resume play. Is this my life? This can't be my life. I'm playing a match for the number 1 ranking in the world, wearing a shoe borrowed from a stranger in Stuttgart. I think of my father using tennis balls to mend our shoes when we were kids. This feels more awkward, more ridiculous. I'm emotionally exhausted, and I wonder why I don't just stop. Walk off, leave. What keeps me going? How am I managing to select shots and hold serve and break serve? Mentally, I leave the arena. I go to the mountains, rent a ski cabin, make myself an omelet, put my feet up, breathe in the snowy smell of the forest. I tell myself, if I win this match, I'll retire, and if I lose this match, I'll retire. I lose. I don't retire. Instead, I do the opposite of retiring. I get on a plane to Australia to play in a slam. The 1996 Australian Open is only days away, and I'm the defending champ. I'm in no frame of mind. I look deranged. My eyes are bloodshot. My face is gaunt. The flight attendant should kick me off. I almost kick myself off. Minutes after Brad and I board, I nearly jump out of my seat and run for it. Brad, seeing my expression, takes my arm. "Come on," he says. "Relax. You never know. Maybe something good will happen." I swallow a sleeping pill and down a vodka, and when I open my eyes, the plane is taxiing to the gate in Melbourne. Brad drives us to the hotel, the Como. My head is in a fog as thick as mashed potatoes. A bellboy shows me to my room, which has a piano and a spiral staircase with shiny wood steps in the center. I tap a few keys on the piano, stagger up the steps to bed. I fall backward. My knee hits the sharp edge of a metal balustrade and tears open. I tumble down the stairs. Blood is everywhere. I call Gil. He's there in 2 minutes. He says it's the patella, the kneecap. "Bad cut," he says. bad bruise. He bandages me, puts me on the couch. In the morning, he shuts me down. He doesn't let me practice. We have to be careful with that patella, he says. It'll be a miracle if the thing holds up for 7 matches. Limping noticeably, I play the first round with a bandage on my knee and a film over my eyes. It's plain to fans, sports writers, commentators that I'm not the player I was a year ago. I drop the first set and quickly fall behind 2 breaks in the second. I'm going to be the first defending champion since Roscoe Tanner to lose a first-round match in a slam. I'm playing Gaston Etlis from Argentina, whoever that is. He doesn't even look like a tennis player. He looks like a substitute school teacher. He has sweaty ringlets and a sinister 5 o'clock shadow. He's a doubles guy, only playing singles because by some miracle he qualified. He looks astonished to be here. A guy like this, I normally beat him in the locker room with one hard stare, but he's up a set on me and leading in the second set. Jesus. And he's the one suffering. If I look pained, he looks panicked. He looks as if he has a 90-pound bullfrog lodged in his throat. I hope he has the balls to close me out, to finish me off, because I'm better off right now with a loss and an early exit. But Etlis gags, freezes, makes shockingly bad decisions. I start to feel weak. I shaved my head this morning, full on, bare scalp bald, because I wanted to punish myself. Why? Because it still rankles that I ruined Brooks' cameo on Friends, because I broke all my trophies, because I came to a slam without putting in the work, and because I lost to Pete in the U.S. fucking Open. You can't fool the man in the mirror, Gil always says, so I'm going to make that man pay. My nickname on the tour is the Punisher, because of the way I run guys back and forth. Now I'm hell-bent on punishing my most intractable opponent, myself, by burning his head. Mission accomplished. The Australian sun is flame-broiling my skin. I scold myself, then forgive myself, then press reset and find a way to tie the second set. Then I win the tie-break. My mind is chattering. What else can I do with my life? Should I break up with Brooke? Should I marry her? I lose the third set. Again, Etlis can't stand prosperity. I win the 4th set in another tie-break. In the 5th set, Etlis wears out, gives up. I'm neither proud nor relieved. I'm embarrassed. My head looks like a blood blister. Put a blister on his brain. Later, reporters ask if I worry about sunburn. I laugh. Honestly, I tell them sunburn is the least of my worries. I want to add, I'm already mentally fried, but I don't. In the quarters, I play Courier. He's beaten me 6 straight times. We've had terrific battles on the court and in the newspapers. After he beat me at the 1989 French Open, he complained about all the attention I get. He said he felt as if he forever plays second fiddle to me. Sounds like an insecurity problem, I told reporters. To which Courier shot back, I'm insecure? He's also been chippy about my ever-changing appearance and psyche. Asked what he thought of the new Agassi, he once said, You mean the new Agassi or the new Agassi? We've patched things up since then. I've told Courier that I root for his success, that I consider him a friend, and he said the same. But there's still a curtain of tension between us, and there may always be, at least until one of us retires, since our rivalry dates back to puberty, back to Nick. The match starts late, delayed by the women's quarters. We get on the court close to midnight and play 9 games on serve. So this is how it's going to be. Then the rain falls. Officials could close the roof, but it would take 40 minutes. They ask if we'd rather come back tomorrow. We both say yes. Sleep helps. I wake refreshed, wanting to beat Courier. But it's not Courier on the other side of the net. It's a pale facsimile. Despite being up 2 sets to love, he looks tentative, burned out. I recognize that look. I've seen it in my mirror many times. I swoop in for the kill. I win the match, beating Courier for the first time in years. When reporters ask about Courier's game, I say, he's not where he wants to be. I want to say there's a lot of that going around. The win helps me regain the number 1 rank. Once again, I've dethroned Pete, but it's just another reminder of when I couldn't beat him. In the semis, I face Chang. I know I can win, but I also know that I will lose. In fact, I want to lose. I must lose, because Becker is waiting on the final. The last thing I need right now is another holy war with Becker. I couldn't handle that. I couldn't have the stomach for it, which means I'd lose. Given a choice between Becker and Chang, I'd rather lose to Chang. Besides, it's always easier psychologically to lose in the semis than in the final. So I'll lose today. Congratulations, Chang. I hope you and your Messiah will be very happy. But losing on purpose isn't easy. It's almost harder than winning. You have to lose in such a way that the crowd can't tell, and in a way that you can't tell. Because, of course, you're not wholly conscious of losing on purpose. You're not even half conscious. Your mind is tanking, but your body is fighting on. Muscle memory. It's not even all your mind that purposely loses, but a breakaway faction, a splinter group. The deliberately bad decisions are made in a dark place, far below the surface. You don't do these tiny things you need to do. You don't run the extra few feet. You don't lunge. You're slow to come out of stops. You hesitate to bend or dig. You get handsy, not using your legs and hips. You make a careless error, compensate for the error with a spectacular shot, then make 2 more errors, and slowly but surely you slide backward. You never actually think, I'm going to net this ball. It's more complicated, more insidious. At the post-match news conference, Brad tells reporters, today Andre hit the wall. True, I think. So very true. But I don't tell Brad that I hit the wall every day. It would crush him to know that today the wall felt good, that I kissed the wall, that I'm glad I lost, that I'd rather be on that plane back to Los Angeles than lacing up for a rematch with our old friend B.B. Socrates. I'd rather be anywhere but here, even Hollywood, my next stop. Since I lost, I'll get home just in time to watch the Super Bowl, followed by the special hour-long episode of Friends featuring Brooke Shields. Chapter 19. Perry grinds me every day, asking what's wrong, what's the matter. I can't tell him. I don't know. More accurately, I don't want to know. I don't want to admit to Perry or myself that a loss to Pete can have this kind of lingering effect. For once, I don't want to sit with Perry and try to unravel the skeins of my subconscious. I've given up on understanding myself. I have no interest in self-analysis. In the long, losing struggle with myself, I'm tanking. I go to San Jose and get annihilated by Pete. Definitely not what the doctor ordered. I lose my temper several times during the match, cursing at my racket, screaming at myself. Pete looks bemused. The umpire penalizes me for swearing. Oh, you like that? Here, take this. I serve a ball into the upper deck. I go to Indian Wells, lose to Chang in the quarters. I can't face the post-match press conference. I skip out, pay a hefty fine. I go to Monte Carlo. I lose to Alberto Costa of Spain in 54 minutes. As I walk off the court, I hear whistles, catcalls. They may as well be coming from inside my heart. I want to yell at the crowd, I agree. Gil asks me, what is it? I tell him. I come right out with it. Since losing to Pete at the U.S. Open, I've lost the will. Then let's not do this, Gil says. We've got to be clear on what we're doing. I want to quit, I say, but I don't know how or when. At the 1996 French Open, I'm coming unglued. I'm screaming at myself all through my first-round match. I receive an official warning. I scream louder. I'm penalized a point. I'm one motherfucking cocksucker away from getting DQ'd for the tournament. Rain starts to fall, and during the delay, I sit in the locker room and stare straight ahead as if hypnotized. When play resumes, I outlast my opponent, Jacobo Diaz, whom I can't see. He's as blurry and watery as the reflections in the rain puddles along the alleys of the court. Beating Diaz merely delays the inevitable. In the next round, I lose to Chris Woodruff from Tennessee. He always reminds me of a country western singer and plays as if he'd rather be performing at a rodeo. He's even more awkward on clay, and to compensate, he gets aggressive, especially on his backhand. I can't counter his aggression. I make 63 unforced errors. He reacts with unbridled joy, and I gaze at him, coveting not his victory, but his enthusiasm. Sports writers accuse me of tanking, not going for every ball. They never get it right. When I tank, they say I'm not good enough. When I'm not good enough, they say I tank. I nearly tell them I wasn't tanking, that I was torturing myself for not being good enough. Whenever I know that I don't deserve to win, that I'm unworthy of winning, I torture myself. You could look it up. But I don't say anything. Once again, I leave the stadium without sitting for the obligatory news conference. Once again, I happily pay the fine. Money well spent. Brooke takes me to a joint in Manhattan where the front room is smaller than a phone booth, but the main dining room is big and warm and mustard yellow. Campagnola. I like the way she says it. I like the way it smells. I like the way we both feel as we walk in off the street. I like the autographed photo of Sinatra next to the coat room. This is my favorite place in New York, Brooke says, so I christen it my favorite too. We sit in a corner, eating a light meal in that lazy twilight hour between lunch crowd and the dinner rush. They don't normally serve food at this hour, but the manager says in our case they'll make an exception. Campagnola quickly becomes an extension of our kitchen, and then of our entire relationship. Brooke and I go there to remind ourselves of the reasons we're good together. We go there on special occasions, and we go there to make humdrum weekdays feel like special occasions. We go there so often and so automatically after every match at the U.S. Open that the chefs and waiters begin to set their watches by us. In a fifth set, I sometimes find myself thinking of the gang at Campagnola, knowing that they're keeping one eye on the TV while prepping the mozzarella, tomatoes, and prosciutto. I know as I'm bouncing the ball, just about to serve, that I'll soon be seated at the corner table, eating buttery fried shrimp with white wine sauce and lemon, plus a side of ravioli so soft and sweet they should count as dessert. I know that when Brooke and I walk in the door, win or lose, the place will erupt with applause. Campagnola's manager, Frankie, is always dressed razor sharp, gill sharp, Italian suit, flowered tie, silk handkerchief. He always greets us with a gap-toothed smile and a fresh batch of funny stories. He's a second father to me, Brooke says when she introduces us, and those are magic words. Surrogate father is a role for which I have the greatest respect, so I like Frankie right away. Then he buys us a bottle of red, tells us about the celebs and grifters and bankers and mobsters who hang out at his joint, makes Brooke laugh until her cheeks are pink, and now I like him for my own reasons. Frank says, "John Gotti? You want to know about Gotti? He always sits right over there, corner table, facing out. If anybody's going to take him down, he wants to see it coming." I feel the same way, I say. Frankie laughs darkly, then nods. I know, right? Frankie is honest, hard-working, sincere, my kind of people. I find myself looking for his face the moment we walk through the door. I feel better. My aches and anxieties fade when Frankie throws out his arms and smiles and whisks us to our table. Sometimes he kicks out other customers, and Brooke and I pretend not to notice their frowning and complaining. Frankie's chief virtue, in my book, is the way he talks about his kids. He loves them, brags about them, pulls out photos of them at the drop of a hat, but clearly he worries about their future. Running a hand over his tired face one night, he tells me his kids are only in grade school, but he's already stressed about college. He groans about the cost of higher education. He doesn't know how he's going to make it. Days later, I talked to Perry and asked him to put aside a nest egg of Nike stock in Frankie's name. When Brooke and I next drop into Campagnola, I tell Frankie about it. The shares can't be touched for 10 years, I say, but by then they should be worth enough to significantly lighten that tuition burden. Frankie's bottom lip trembles. "Andre," he says, "I can't believe you'd do that for me." The look on his face is a complete shock. I didn't understand the meaning and value of education, the hardship and stress it causes most parents and children. I've never thought of education like that. School was always a place I managed to escape, not a thing to be treasured. Setting aside the stock was merely something I did because Frankie specifically mentioned college and I wanted to help. When I saw what it meant to him, however, I was the one who got educated. Helping Frankie provides more satisfaction and makes me feel more connected and alive in myself than anything else that happens in 1996. I tell myself, remember this, hold on to this. This is the only perfection there is, the perfection of helping others. This is the only thing we can do that has any lasting value or meaning. This is why we're here, to make each other feel safe. And as 1996 wears on, safety seems like an especially precious commodity. Brooke is regularly receiving letters from stalkers threatening her, and sometimes me, with death and unspeakable horrors. The letters are detailed, grisly, sick. We forward them to the FBI. We also ask Gil to work with the agents, monitor their progress. Several times, when a letter is traceable, Gil goes rogue. He boards a plane and pays the stalker a visit. He usually appears early in the morning, just after dawn, at the stalker's house or workplace. He holds up the letter and says very softly, "I know who you are and where you live. Now take a good look at me, because if you ever bother Brooke and Andre again, you will see me again, and you don't want that, because then it will be on." The scariest letters can't be traced. When they rise above a certain gruesome threshold, when they threaten that something is going to happen on a specific date, Gil will stand outside Brooke's brownstone while we sleep. By stand, I mean stand. On the stoop, arms folded. He stations himself there, looking left, then right, and he stays that way all night, night after night. The strain, the sordidness, exact a heavy toll on Gil. He worries constantly that he's not doing enough, that he may have missed something, that he'll blink or look away one time and some creep will slither past. He becomes obsessed. He falls into a nearly debilitating depression, and I fall with him because I'm the cause. I brought this on Gil. I feel deep guilt, and I'm beset by premonitions of doom. I try to talk myself out of it. I tell myself that you can't be unhappy when you have money in the bank and own your own plane, but I can't help it. I feel listless, hopeless, trapped in a life I didn't choose, hounded by people I can't see, and I can't discuss any of it with Brooke because I can't admit to such weakness. Feeling depressed after a loss is one thing, but feeling depressed about nothing, about life in general, is another thing altogether. I can't feel this way. I refuse to admit that I feel this way. Even if I wanted to discuss it with Brooke, we're not communicating well these days. We're not on the same frequency. We don't have the same bandwidth. For instance, when I try to talk with her about Frankie, about the satisfaction of helping him, she doesn't seem to hear. After the initial fun of introducing me to Frankie, she's cool about him, indifferent, as if he's played his part and now it's time for him to move off stage. This follows a precedent, a pattern that repeats itself with many people and places Brooke brings into my life. Museums, galleries, celebrities, writers, shows, friends. I often get more from them than she does. Just as I start to enjoy something, to learn from it, she casts it aside. It makes me wonder if we're a good fit. I don't think so. And yet I can't step back, can't suggest we take a break because I'm already distancing myself from tennis. With no Brooke and no tennis, I'll have nothing. I fear the void, the darkness. So I cling to Brooke, and she clings back. And though the clinging seems loving, it's more like the clinging in that painting in the Louvre, holding on for dear life. As Brooke and I approach our 2-year anniversary, I decide that we should formalize our clinging. 2 years is a meaningful benchmark in my love life. In every previous relationship, 2 years has been the make or break moment, and I've always chosen break. Every 2 years, I grow tired of the girl I'm dating, or she grows tired of me, as if a timer goes off in my heart. I was with Wendy 2 years, and then she declared our relationship open, which prefigured the end. Before Wendy, I was with a girl in Memphis for exactly 2 years, and then I bolted. Why my love life runs in 2-year cycles, I don't know. I wasn't even aware of the pattern until Perry pointed it out. Whatever the reason, I'm determined to change. At 26, I believe this pattern needs to be broken now, or I'll be 36 looking back on a series of 2-year relationships that went nowhere. If I'm going to have a family, if I'm going to be happy, I've got to break this cycle, which means pushing myself past the 2-year mark, forcing myself to commit. Of course, technically, it hasn't been 2 years with Brooke. With our hectic schedules, with my playing and her filming, we've actually spent only a few months together. We're still getting to know each other, still learning. Part of me knows I shouldn't force a decision. Part of me simply doesn't want to be married right now. But who cares what I want? When is what I want ever a good idea of what I should do? How often do I enter a tournament wanting to play only to lose in the early rounds? How often do I enter reluctantly, feeling like hell, only to win? Maybe marriage, the ultimate match play, the ultimate single elimination tournament, is the same way. Besides, everyone around me is getting married. Perry, Philly, JP. In fact, Philly and JP met their wives together on the same night. After the summer of revenge, it's the winter of marriage. I asked Perry for advice. We talk for hours in Vegas and on the phone. He leans toward marriage. Brooke is the one, he says. How are you going to do better than a Princeton-educated supermodel? After all, didn't we fantasize about her years ago? Didn't he predict that she'd come along? And now here she is, destiny. What's the problem? He reminds me of Shadowlands. C.S. Lewis doesn't become fully alive, doesn't grow up until he opens himself to love. Love is how we grow up, the movie says, and as Lewis reminds his students, God wants us to grow up. Perry says he knows of an excellent jeweler in Los Angeles, the same jeweler Perry used when he got engaged. Set aside the question of whether or not to propose, he says, and just focus for a moment on the ring. I know the kind of ring Brooke wants, round, Tiffany cut, because she's told me, straight out. She's never shy about sharing her opinions on jewels, clothes, cars, shoes. In fact, the most animated talks we have are about things. We used to talk about our dreams, our childhoods, our feelings. Now we avidly discuss the best sofas, the best stereos, the best cheeseburgers, and while I find such talk interesting, an important aspect of the art of living, I fear Brooke and I put undue emphasis on it. I gird myself, phone the jeweler, and tell her I'm in the market for an engagement ring. The words come out croaky. I feel my heart pound. I ask myself, shouldn't this be a joyous moment, one of the great moments of life? Before I can answer, the jeweler is peppering me with her own questions. Size? Carat? Color? Clarity? She keeps talking about clarity, asking me about clarity. I think, lady, you're asking the wrong guy about clarity. I say, all I know is round, Tiffany cut. When do you need it? Soon? Can do. I think I've got just the ring. Days later, the ring arrives by courier. It's in a big box. I walk around with it in my pocket for 2 weeks. The box feels leaden and dangerous, as do I. Brooke is away, filming a movie. We talk every night on the phone, and sometimes I cradle the phone with one hand and fondle the ring with the other. She's in the Carolinas, where it's bitter cold, but the script calls for the weather to be balmy, so the director forces her and the other actors to suck ice cubes. It keeps their breath from fogging. better than licking hands. She says a few of her lines for me, and we laugh because they sound fake. They sound like lines. After we hang up, I go for a drive, the heater turned up high, the lights of the strip winking like diamonds. I replay our conversation, and I can't tell the difference between the lines in her script and the lines we've just spoken to each other. I pull a ring box out from my coat pocket and open it. The ring catches and reflects the light. I set it on the dashboard. Clarity. As Brooke wraps her film, I conclude a miserable stretch of tennis that has sports writers openly, sometimes gleefully, saying I'm done. 3 slams, they say. That's far more than we thought he'd win. Brooke says we need to get away, far away. This time we choose Hawaii. I pack the ring. My stomach rolls as our plane swoops toward the volcanoes. I gaze at the palm trees, the foaming coastline, the misty rainforests, and think, another island paradise. Why do we always feel compelled to run off to island paradises? It's as though we have Blue Lagoon syndrome. I fantasize about the engine sputtering, the plane spiraling down into the mouth of a volcano. To my chagrin, we land safely. I've rented a bungalow at the Mauna Lani Resort. 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, a dining room, a pool, a full-time chef, plus a long stretch of white beach all to ourselves. We spend the first few days hanging around the bungalow, relaxing by the pool. Brooke's engrossed in a book about how to be single and happy in your 30s. She holds the book over her face, licking her finger and loudly turning the pages. It doesn't cross my mind that this might be a pointed hint. Nothing crosses my mind except the proposal I'm about to deliver. Andre, you seem distracted. No, I'm here. Everything all right? Please leave me alone, I think. I'm trying to decide when and where to propose to you. I'm like a murderer, plotting, thinking constantly of the time and the place, except that a murderer has a motive. On the 3rd night, though we're planning to eat dinner in the bungalow, I suggest we dress up as if it's a special occasion. Great idea, Brooke says. She emerges from the bedroom an hour later in a flowing white dress that falls to her ankles. I wear a linen suit and beige pants, the perfectly wrong outfit because the pockets of the pants are shallow and the ring box doesn't fit. I keep my hand over the pocket to hide the bulge. I stretch as though I'm about to play a match. I shake out my legs, then suggest a stroll. Yes, Brooke says, that sounds like a lovely idea. She takes a sip of wine, smiles casually, no idea what's coming. We walk for 10 minutes until we reach a part of the beach where we can't see any sign of civilization. I crane my neck to make sure no one is coming. No tourists, no paparazzi. The coast is clear. I think of that line from Top Gun. I had the shot. There was no danger, so I took it. I fall a few steps behind Brooke and drop to one knee on the sand. She turns, looks down, and all the color drains from her face as the colors of the sunset grow more vivid. Brooke Krista Shields? She's mentioned in conversation many times that any man who proposes to her had better use her full legal name. Brooke Krista Shields. I never knew why and never thought to ask, but now it comes back to me. I repeat, Brooke Krista Shields? She puts a hand on her forehead. Wait, she says, what are you? Wait, I'm not ready. That makes 2 of us. She's wiping away tears as I pull the ring box from my pocket and crack it open and remove the ring and slide it onto her finger. Brooke Krista Shields, will you? She's pulling me to my feet. I'm kissing her and thinking, I really wish I'd thought this through. Is this the person that Andre Kirk Agassi is supposed to spend the next 90 years with? Yes, she says. Yes, yes, yes. Wait, I think. Wait. She says she wants a do-over. One day later, she tells me she was in such shock on the beats she couldn't hear me. She wants me to repeat the proposal word for word. I need you to say it again, she insists, because I can't believe it really happened. Me neither. She's planning the wedding before we're off the island. And when we get back to Los Angeles, I resume the unplanned, unceremonious end of my tennis career. I moonwalk through one tournament after another. I'm losing in early rounds, and therefore I'm home a lot, which tickles Brooke. I'm placid, numb, and I have plenty of time to talk about wedding cakes and invitations. We fly to England for the 1996 Wimbledon. Just before the start of the tournament, Brooke insists we go for high tea at the Dorchester Hotel. I beg off, but she insists. We're surrounded by older couples, all wearing tweed and bow ties and ribbons. Half of them look asleep. We eat finger sandwiches with the crusts cut off, heaping plates of egg salad and scones with jam and butter, all things expressly engineered to clog the human artery without the benefit of tasting good. The food is making me cranky, and the setting feels ridiculous, like a children's tea party in a nursing home. But just as I'm about to suggest that we ask for the check, I notice that Brooke's ecstatic. She's having a grand time. She wants more jam. In the first round, I faced Doug Flatch, ranked number 281, a qualifier who's in over his head, though you'd never know it to watch him against me. He plays as if he's channeling Rod Laver, and I play like Ralph Nader. We're on graveyard court. By now, you'd think I'd have my own plaque here. I lose as fast as I can, and Brooke and I hurry back to Los Angeles to engage in more deep conversation about Battenberg lace and chiffon line tents. As summer approaches, there is only one elaborate pageant that interests and inspires me, and it's not my wedding. It's the Atlanta Olympics. I don't know why. Maybe it feels like something new. Maybe it feels like something that has nothing to do with me. I'll be playing for my country, playing for a team and 300 million members. I'll be closing a circle. My father was an Olympian, now me. I plan a regimen with Gil, an Olympian's regimen, and give all-out effort to our training sessions. I spend 2 hours with Gil each morning, then hit with Brad for 2 hours, then run up and down Gill Hill on the hottest part of the day. I want the heat. I want the pain. As the games begin, sports writers kill me for skipping the opening ceremonies. Perry kills me for it too. But I'm not in Atlanta for opening ceremonies. I'm here for gold, and I need to hoard what little concentration and energy I can muster these days. The tennis is being played in Stone Mountain, an hour's drive from the opening ceremonies downtown. Stand around in the Georgia heat and humidity, wearing a coat and tie, waiting for hours to walk around the track, then drive to Stone Mountain and give my best? No, I can't. I'd love to experience the pageantry, to savor the spectacle of the Olympics, but not before my first match. This, I tell myself, is focus. This is what it means to put substance above image. With a good night's sleep under my belt, I win my first rounder against Jonas Borkman from Sweden. In the second round, I cruise past Karol Kusera from Slovakia. In the third round, I face a stiffer test from Andre Godenzi from Italy. He has a muscle-bound game. He likes to trade body blows, and if you respect him too much, he gets more macho. I don't show him any respect, but the ball doesn't respect me. I'm making all sorts of unforced errors. Before I know what's happening, I'm down a set and a break. I look to Brad. What should I do? He yells, "Stop missing!" Oh, right. Sage advice. I stop missing, stop trying to hit winners, put the pressure back on Godenzi. It's really that simple, and I scrape out an ugly, satisfying win. In the quarters, I'm on the verge of elimination against Ferreira. He's up 5-4 in the third, serving for the match. But he's never beaten me before, and I know exactly what's going on inside his body. Something my father used to say comes back to me. If you stick a piece of charcoal up his ass, you'll pull out a diamond. Round, Tiffany cut. I know Ferreira's sphincter is squeezing shut, and this makes me confident. I rally, break him, win the match. In the semis, I meet Leander Paes from India. He's a flying, jumping bean, a bundle of hyperkinetic energy with the tour's quickest hands. Still, he's never learned to hit a tennis ball. He hits off speed, hacks, chips, lobs. He's the Brad of Bombay. Then, behind all his junk, he flies to the net and covers so well that it all seems to work. After an hour, you feel as if he hasn't hit one ball cleanly, and yet he's beating you soundly. Because I'm prepared, I stay patient, stay calm, and beat Paes 7-6, 6-3. In the final, I play Sergi Bruguera from Spain. The match is delayed by thunderstorms, and the forecasters say it will be 5 hours before we can get on the court. So I wolf down a spicy chicken sandwich from Wendy's, comfort food. On the day of a match, I don't worry about calories and nutrition. I worry about having energy and feeling full. Also, because of my nerves, it's rare that I'm hungry on match day, so at any time I have an appetite, I try to capitalize. I give my stomach whatever it asks for. Swallowing the last bite of spicy chicken, however, the clouds part, the storm blows away, and the heat comes. Now I have a spicy chicken sandwich sitting on my gut. It's 90 degrees, and the air is as thick as gravy. I can't move, and I have to play for a gold medal? So much for comfort food. I'm in extreme gastric discomfort. But I don't care. Gil asks how I feel, and I tell him, A-OK. I'm going to hustle for every ball. I'm going to make this guy run, and if he thinks he's taking this medal back to Spain, he's got another thing coming. Gil grins from ear to ear. That's my boy. It's one of the rare times, Gil says, that he sees no fear in my eyes as I walk onto the court. From the opening serve, I'm pounding Bruguera, moving him from corner to corner, making him cover a parcel of real estate the size of Barcelona. Every point is a blow to his midsection. In the middle of the second set, we have a titanic rally. He wins the point to get back to deuce. He takes so much time getting ready for the next point that I could argue with the umpire. By rights, I should argue, and Bruguera should get a warning. Instead, I use the moment to wander over to the ball boy, grab a towel, whisper to Gil, "How's our friend looking over there?" Gil smiles. He nearly laughs, except that Gil never laughs during a fight. Even though Bruguera has won the point, Gil sees, and I see, that winning the point will cost him the next 6 games. Gil shouts, "That's my boy." As I mount the review stand, I think, what will this feel like? I've watched this on TV so many times. Can it possibly live up to my expectations? Or, like so many things, will it fall short? I look left and right. Paes, the bronze winner, is on one side. Bruguera, the silver winner, is on the other. My platform is a foot higher, one of the few times I'm taller than my opponents. But I'd feel 10 feet tall on any surface. A man drapes the gold medal around my neck. The national anthem starts. I feel my heart swell, and it has nothing to do with tennis or me, and thus it exceeds all my expectations. I scan the crowd and spot Gil, Brooke, Brad. I look for my father, but he's hiding. He told me the night before that I've managed to reclaim something taken from him years ago, and yet he doesn't want to be visible, doesn't want to detract from the specialness of my moment. He doesn't understand that this moment is special precisely because it's not mine. Days later, for reasons I can't begin to comprehend, the Olympic afterglow is gone. I'm on the court in Cincinnati, losing my mind, playing for myself again. I'm smashing my racket in a fit of rage. I go on to win the tournament, however, which seems laughable and only aggravates my sense that it's all a joke. Then in August, at the RCA Championships in Indianapolis, playing a first-round match against Daniel Nestor from Canada, I'm well ahead, but I feel unduly piqued that he's just broken my serve. I can't let go of my sudden anger. I look up at the sky and fantasize about flying away. Since I can't fly away, at least this tennis ball can fly away. Be free, little ball. I whack it high above the stands and out of the stadium. Automatic warning. The umpire, Dana Lacanto, says into the microphone, "Code violation. Warning. Abuse of ball." "Fuck you, Dana." He calls over the ref. He tells the ref that Agassi said, "Fuck you, Dana." The referee approaches and asks, "Did you say that?" "Yes." The match is over. "Fine. Fuck you too. And fuck the umpire you rode in on." The fans start a riot. They don't understand what's happening because they can't hear me. They only know that they paid to see a match and now it's being canceled. They're booing, firing seat cushions and water bottles onto the court. The mascot of the RCA Championships is a Spuds McKenzie dog, which now trots onto the court, dodging seat cushions and water bottles. He reaches the middle of the net, lifts his hind leg, and pees. I couldn't agree more. He makes a jaunty exit. I'm right behind him, ducking my head, dragging my tennis bag. The crowd is going berserk, like the crowd is in a gladiator movie. They're showering the court with garbage. In the locker room, Brad says, "What the?" "They defaulted me." "Why?" I tell him. He shakes his head. His 7-year-old son, Zach, is crying because the people are being mean to Uncle Andre and because Spuds McKenzie peed on the net. I send them both away and then sit in the locker room for an hour, head bowed. So here we are, a new low. Fine, I can handle this. I can actually get comfortable here. I can settle in. Rock bottom can be very cozy because at least you're at rest. You know you're not going anywhere for a while. But rock bottom is still a ways down. I go to the 1996 U.S. Open, and right away there's controversy. Something about seeding. A few of my fellow players complain that I've gotten special treatment, that I was bumped up in the draw because tournament officials and CBS want to see me and Pete in the final. Mooster says I'm a prima donna. I take particular glee, but therefore, in knocking his hair-mussing ass out of the quarters, continuing to keep my promise that I would never lose to him again. I reach the semis against Chang. I can't wait to put a beating on him after losing to him months ago at Indian Wells. It should be no problem. He's on the back nine of his career, Brad says. So am I, people say, but I have a gold medal. I almost wish I could wear it during the match. Chang, however, doesn't give a damn about my gold medal. He fires 16 aces, wiggles out of 3 break points, forces me into 45 unforced errors. 7 years after winning his last slam, Chang is almighty, omnipotent. He is risen, and I am fallen. The next morning, sports writers trash me. I quit. I tanked. I didn't care. It almost seems as if they're angry with me. And I know why. As a result of my loss, they now have to deal with Chang for one more day. I don't watch the final on TV when Pete beats Chang in straight sets, but I do read about it. Every article says matter-of-factly that Pete is the best player of his generation. As the year winds down, I go to Munich, where the boos are deafening. I lose to Mark Woodford, whom I beat 6-0, 6-0 2 short years ago. Brad is apoplectic. He begs me to tell him what's wrong. I don't know. Tell me, man. Tell me. I would if I could. We agree that I should rest, pull out of the Australian Open. Go home, he says. Get some rest. Spend some time with your fiancée. That'll cure whatever ails you.